Hello everybody and welcome to the first ever ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. This is the first qualifying round we are about to bring you here on this fine Sunday afternoon. My name is Aladar and joining me in the commentary box today is Badgerman.
Yeah, very excited for this one. It is a magnificent event. I'm very much looking forward to it. The first qualifier starts here.
Absolutely. And what a roster of drivers, of teams, of nations we have before us here for this qualifier as well. Plenty of very, very quick names. A few ex-F1 esports drivers, a couple of pretty current people in the F1 esports world as well, and some up-and-comers. So lots of very, very quick drivers, and it's going to be very fun to see. We've got a very unique format here today as well. The first race of the day in Brazil is something we'll be getting to in just a moment here. And that will begin with a 5-lap random grid race. And the results of this 5-lap race will decide the grid for the first actual race of the day, which will be a 25% race at Interlagos. So this race you're about to see is just for deciding the grid.
Yeah, it's a very unique format. Not often do we get drivers going or leagues or events going for a 5-lap random grid sprint race to decide the lineup, to decide the grid for the actual race, but it certainly should make for some interesting battling early on here. Drivers get thrown into the cold water immediately. Let's see who can swim.
Absolutely, we'll see exactly who's going to sink and who is going to swim, and it's going to be all kinds of topsy-turvy at the beginning of this race, but we're about to get underway already here. And it's one of the Turkish drivers in the Ferrari at the front. That's Ulaş Özyıldırım, and Tino Nokarinen has rolled into second here. So he's had a great start as well in the AlphaTauri. We are underway here. There is Nokarinen already up the inside, pushing Özyıldırım right. They're both onto the grass, and that's Vallejo thrown into the lead. It's a chaotic start to the race already. Tara Buchan's off the road there. That's going to give Lewis Welch a chance to get past for Team UK. But it is the Spaniard Ruben Vallejo leading from Nokarinen in second, Özyıldırım third, and Welch in fourth.
Yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulties right at the start there, but everything's working now. We have Özyıldırım losing 2 positions there at the start. Vallejo flying away in the Renault. So he's already pulling a nice gap there to Tino Nokarinen. And it's going to be interesting to see who's going to make any more moves here. Özyıldırım already on the back foot after just half a lap, really. And 5 laps around Brazil, well, they do go by very quickly.
Indeed, and he's going to be hoping that checkered flag comes sooner rather than later at the rate things are going at the moment for Özyıldırım, because he's got Louis Welch all up his rear end as well in that racing point, which is being driven by the Team UK drivers. But it's Özyıldırım who's actually taken a look at Nokarinen here. Tino Nokarinen's had a poor run onto the back straight, and now that's going to be Özyıldırım up the inside in towards turn 1 we go, with Nokarinen trying to hang it around the outside, but he cannot do it. That is revenge for the first.
Oh, wow. We have some technical difficulties. My program just crashed. We are now back. There we go. Apologies for that. My program just crashed. But
everything all right?
Everything all right. We are back now. We have game sound as well. That's what I was trying to fix. It didn't really work, but now we have game sound. So a couple of technical difficulties here, but Özyıldırım actually up to P2.
Yeah, Özyıldırım managing to make a move. There's been contact further down. I think that's Ate Kalpanen who's gone into the back of Hausmann there for the Germans in the Red Bull team. Boda, the Hungarian, also in and amongst that fight as well. And they're all going into Bico de Pato. So many cars going side by side right now. Felipe Salza almost loses it there for World X in the Mercedes. Ate Kalpanen really struggling with the car there as they head into Junção and up towards the hill. But it's Vallejo leading comfortably at the front now from Özyıldırım in second. Nokarinen's getting closer to him, so that might continue to switch positions, the two of them. He can't quite get him though. The Ferrari holds on in second. Meanwhile, that is Ma losing out to Naumann there. Naumann going around the outside of turn 1 for the German team. The Chinese man Ma might well be able to battle him back down towards turn 4 with DRS now open and available for these cars as well. Going to switch back to the outside, but Naumann can just take the racing line and calmly moves himself up into 6th.
Yeah, a nice battle there between the two, and one thing to note here, obviously, DRS is now enabled for the drivers here. Lap 3 has begun, and we have a yellow flag in Sector 2. Who is that for? Is that a Kinji?
It's Felipe Salsa who's fallen down. He was battling sort of in the midfield there. He's fallen down to 19th. He's behind Chen Yutang. who is in the second of the Alfa Romeos being piloted by the Chinese drivers, and that's Beetle off the road, the Belgian representative in the Haas. He's lost it. He's now going down behind Sausa Akinci for the Turks. He also had an issue on the first lap. I think had to change his front wing in a pit stop. So that's why he is right down there at the bottom, but it's still Vallejo leading. As Yildirim actually closing him down a little bit at this stage of the race, but time is already running out as we're on to the penultimate lap of this qualifying random grid race here. Now Karinen in third with Welch in fourth. There's moves going on further down. Buten and Svetkov are going side by side here. Buten trying to push him wide through turn 3, and this is going to give the opportunity for Richie here, the Dutchman, driving for World X in the Mercedes team, and he's going to be able to get both of them on the run down towards turn 4. Svetkov trying to hang it around the outside. No chance there for the Russian. Richie with 2 moves in 2 points.
Yeah, fantastic. Great opportunities taken there by Richie, and he is 2 positions up, and that is going to bode well for the main race. For those that are just tuning in, once again, this is a 5-lap sprint race that started with a random grid to determine the grid for the main 25% race of round 1.
So yeah, Vallejo in the lead of this race at the moment means that he will be on pole for the first proper race, the first 25% race of the day, and that is when the points will be awarded. No points available here, it is just about grid order, and some people will be feeling a bit better about that than others. Chanikitsa, though, he's not going to be too happy, going to be having to start at the very back of the field in the race unless something drastically changes. But here comes Nokarinen up into second, trying to get one over on Akinchi's teammate. These two have been battling all race long, and onto the final lap we go with Yildirim just about holding on to second there. Now Karinen still chasing him down in third, but Welch is really interested in this one as well. This could be a 3-wide moment as they go up Desquiro de Lago here, but there's no space for the racing point. It's just Yildirim and now Karinen. Now Karinen forced well off the track there by Yildirim. Welch cannot find a way through still. Yildirim thinking about going defensive through Ferradura as well. This battle isn't over yet. It's the final lap, and you can tell how frantic it's getting between these drivers. Yildirim defensive into turn 7. Now turn 8. Pinarino we go. Got to be very careful on the throttle. This is where Beetle lost it a couple of laps ago for the Belgians. But it's all okay for these guys in second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, expect a mad run to the line from all these drivers here. Yildirim and behind, it's going to get really close, but you know who's not going to run maniacally to the line? It's going to be Ruben Vallejo, who is on his way to get pole position here for the first race.
Absolutely been a great race for him, but here comes Welch on now Karinen, and now Karinen does have DRS, and it's going to be so close up towards the line, but now Karinen does hold on to take third on the grid. Welch will be fourth. That's going to be Tarabukin in fifth, with Nauman gaining a few positions up to sixth. Pablo Joglar, the second Spaniard, in seventh. So the Spaniard's going to be feeling very, very good about this grid order going into our first race of the day. Ma in 8th, with Richie in 9th, and Svetkov rounding out the top 10. Buten there in 11th, with Bial, the first of the Hungarians. They're going to be disappointed in 12th and 16th. Kanakinci coming across the line, stone dead last.
Yeah, that was a maniacal race all around. 5-lap sprint, lots of overtakes there. We see Louis Welch, driver of the day. He certainly made the most positions there and given himself a very, very good opportunity there in P4. It wasn't a podium here in the sprint race, but it certainly was a very good move up the order for him, and he gave himself a good chance for the upcoming race.
Absolutely. Second row on the grid is where he's going to be, and it is the next race is where the first point scoring opportunities are for these drivers. So quickly, just to run you through what's going to happen, we're soon going to have a 25% race here in Interlagos, and then the top 15 from that race will score points, and they will be reversed to make the grid for our second 25% race of the day, which will be in China. And then the third race of the day will feature a normal short qualifying at Japan, followed by another 25% race. So here is your grid for the first race of the day, and we'll get that sorted out for you. We'll get the lobby set up, but don't go anywhere because we'll take a little break, and then we'll be back for the first proper race of the day.
It's time now. Your blood is burning. Your stamina is rising. Greet all the challenges in your way.
Welcome back, everyone. Just a couple of quick words from our sponsors there. We're still just getting the lobby set up for the 25% race in Interlagos, but that gives us a little bit of a breather after that absolutely hectic 5-lap qualifying race to give you a bit of a better rundown of what exactly is going on here, all the drivers participating, all the nations participating, which teams they're driving for, all of that good stuff. So why don't we start quickly here with the points order for the 25% races. The top 15 drivers, not the top 10, but the top 15 will be eligible to score points. And the team with the most points after the 3 events here today will proceed into the actual event, the finals themselves of the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. So it's all about being the #1 team here today.
Yeah, it's all about working together as a team. It doesn't matter if you win the race if your teammate isn't doing that well and you're winning, but some other team has second and third, then they will outscore you. So it really is a bit more about consistency, about working together, and not so much about who is the single fastest driver, but of course, who is the fastest nation.
Indeed. And now why don't we take a look at the drivers, the runners and riders, the teams and nations participating here today as well, just so you guys all get a pretty clear idea of who exactly is here and present. So we have the Team UK drivers of Tom Martinez. Many of you will know him better as Tom97, and Lewis UK, also known as Lewis Welch. So they will be representing Team UK in the Racing Point. And we have the World X drivers of Felipe Sousa from Brazil and Ace Ritchie, Jeffrey Ritchie, also known as Shazoo Academy Ace. He is from the Netherlands. They are representing the World X team, so not from one nation in particular, but a more international flavor for them. Then we have the Turkish team in the form of Ulaş Özildirim and Caner Kinci, 2 very young, up-and-coming drivers. They'll be driving the Ferraris here today. And we got the Spaniards, who had a great time in that 5-lap qualifying race, in the form of Ruben Vallejo and Pablo Joglar. So Vallejo will be our pole sitter for this upcoming race. And then the 5th team we have is the Russian team driving for Williams, I believe. That's going to be Tarabukin and Tsvetkov flying the flag for the Russians.
And then we get to team number 6 with Bial, and it shows you on the screen that it is Kevin Balash, but there was a last-minute change for him. Boda will be driving. Balash no longer part of Team Hungary. Then we have the Germans, obviously a team that's very close to my heart, being a German myself. We have Naumann and Hausmann driving for them there. For the Finns, 2 names you will be familiar with in Tino Naukkarinen and Atte Kaupinen. For the Belgians, we have Burton and Bethel. And of course, we welcome our Chinese friends here with Tang and Ma.
Yeah, and long-time viewers of RRL will be familiar with Tianyu Tang. He's participated in a fair few Split A and B races over ORL's recent history. So he is one of those Chinese drivers who will be participating here today. Now, these aren't the only drivers that we'll see participating, but these are the drivers we're going to be seeing participating in the first race here today. Some of these teams are going to be subbing drivers in and out. Each team is made up of 4 drivers total, whereas other teams are just going to run with the same 2 race by race unless they need one of their reserves. But it looks like we've got the grid all sorted out and we are getting into the lobby for the second race of the day, the first proper race of the day, the 25% race here in Brazil.
Yeah, and I can't wait. It is a fantastic track, many overtaking opportunities. We've seen it in the first race already with, obviously, into turn 1, into the Senna S. What an overtaking opportunity that is after such a long run out of the final proper corner. And then the back straight, the Reto Posta into turn 4 as well. The infield, as I always like to call it. For me, this track is more of a... It feels like an oval, almost a tri-oval with an infield. It has just so many great overtaking opportunities. And it's making for a fantastic venue. When there were talks in F1 about this track being ditched for some kind of new project in the rainforest in Brazil, the outrage was very clear and was very vocal. And thankfully, F1 distanced themselves from those plans and kept this jewel of a track on the calendar so we can enjoy it on the games for years to come.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's a fun track to watch at. There's often rain that comes into play here as well. And it's a track that has so much history. Various iterations of Interlagos have been being driven around by Formula One cars for 40 or so years at this point. There's been a huge amount of history, a huge amount of races that have gone on at this circuit. None more legendary, of course, perhaps, than that one back in 2008 with the Is That Glock moment. But for now, we're going to have a whole new set of moments here in the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. Once these drivers get their setups all sorted out and they start to ready up, 20 seconds before we get onto the grid here today. And who are you looking at, Badgerman, to take the win in this one?
It's difficult. There's so many drivers at this high level that I can't really pick one. But if I had to go for just one, if I really had to, if you pushed me, I would say Tino Nakarinen. I mean, he's an F1 esports driver. He's got the experience. He's got the skill. He's got everything that you would want in a driver to do well in this sort of race. And so I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately he is the one standing on top. And starting in P3 certainly will not do him that badly.
Very interesting stuff here if we look at the tyres really quick, because there has been some different decisions made. Of course, free choice on the tyres for all of these drivers, given that the qualifying was a 5-lap race. Ruben Vallejo, has gone for those soft tyres at the very front, along with Ricci in 9th and Bial, the Hungarian, in 12th. Everyone else, literally everyone else, has opted for the medium tyres instead, including Yildirim and now Karinen in 2nd and 3rd. So they're going to struggle to get a run on Vallejo for the first 2 laps, but they're going to be hoping that the long game will pay off for them instead.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again on the F1 game, the alternate strategy being, as the kids like to say, OP. And we see it here again, 17 drivers opting to go for that alternate strategy. Doesn't really make it alternate all that much. I think the odd ones out here are Vallejo, Ricci, and Bial. But that might be a blessing in disguise for them. They might be thinking, oh no, we're on the quote-unquote bad strategy, on the slightly worse strategy. But they're going to have a whole lot of clear air as soon as they pit. And then the drivers on the medium tires are going to have to do the overtaking. And we see, I see in the chat right now, Nicholas Longe, another F1 esports driver, asking about the qualifying. We just did the qualifying. It was a 5-lap random grid sprint race that determined this grid order. This is not a random grid. We had a random grid race before, 5 laps long, that determined the order of this grid. So
indeed,
this is not a random grid.
Absolutely. Not a random grid at all, and all these format changes are what makes for such an exciting event that we have here today. As now, Çanakkale lining up in 20th and last, at the very back of the grid, with his Turkish teammate Yildirim sitting there in 2nd and in prime position to challenge Vallejo in towards turn 1. As the lights are coming on in Interlagos, they go out, and quickly we are underway here, and it looks like a very good start line for the Renault on Vallejo. Meanwhile, is that Welch already up in a 2nd? What an excellent start from the Racing Point. The Team UK driver up into 2nd place, and then in 3rd, that is Tino Valcarino with Yildirim having fallen down into 4th. But it is still Vallejo leading very comfortably off the start. Once again, there's a Williams. That's one of the Russians alongside the German. It's going to be Naumann going up the inside of Tarabukin there into the Skidder de Lago, but he couldn't make the move stick. And Tarabukin holds on to 5th for now. Meanwhile, further down, Martinez is also making progress, just like his teammate in the other Racing Point, as he's able to get past Svetkov, who also then gets passed by Atte Kalpanen as well.
Yeah, Manic start already again. Bial already moving up 4 places here. That McLaren is just flying through the field. He's battling with Ma here through the infield. Gets the position ultimately. There's still Ma on the inside there, but Bial keeps that right now. 4 places. The winner of the start, and I think the loser of the start is going to be Burton there in P17. He lost 6 places already. Belgium not looking that great right now. Unfortunately, P17 and P20 for them. They're going to have a mountain to climb.
Yeah, and it was very important for the Hungarian outfit that Bial was able to get a good start on those soft tyres. He has been able to make it work. Meanwhile, Ritchie's having to go there, and Naumann on his soft tyres as well. And he's able to make light work of the German there into turn 1. So that is Ritchie for the World X team in the Mercedes up into 6th. Further up, that's Vallejo, I think, battling. Nope. That's just a timing screen error there. They're all just a line astern in the top 5 here as they head down towards turn 7. Bial very close behind Naumann there in 7th and 8th, but Naumann still holding on to the position. There's battling further down as well. Things seem to have settled into a bit of a rhythm here. Not quite so chaotic as we saw in the 5 lap.
Yeah, and we need to say very quickly for all the viewers, of course, this is not lap 3, this is lap 2. You are not... you know, wrong there if you think, hey, I've only seen 2 laps of this, why does it say lap 3? That is unfortunately a glitch we can't do much about, we can't do anything about really. So it is lap 2, but lap 3 is about to start, and that means the DRS will be enabled, not disabled, enabled.
And someone who's looking pretty lively right now is Pablo Hoglada down in 10th. He's having a look at Mark. Chinese driver in the Alfa Romeo going defensive here in towards turn 1, but around the outside goes the Spaniard in the Renault, and he manages to make that stick. Lovely move there from Hoglar, making progress, his teammate leading out at the front as well. The Spaniards are going to be very happy with the way this race has gone thus far. Bial now having a look at Naumann, who lost out to a soft tyre runner last lap. He might lose out to another one this lap, and he pushes him wide through turn 4, and Bial runs out of space, so he cannot contest the German for 7th quite yet.
Meanwhile, one of the German drivers, the other German driver, Hausmann, in the pit lane right now. He is now down to last, just comes out of the pit lane there and has strapped on a set of soft tires, and he has a penalty as well, 5 seconds. I think he's sped in the pit lane, so that is going to set him back a little further, unfortunately. So, yeah, one of the Germans doing well in Naumann in P7, the other struggling mightily.
Now, once again, pretty close behind Naumann. Naumann might start to struggle a little bit more here as well. Does have DRS for himself, but he pulls off the battle early by diving into the pits to get rid of that set of medium tyres. Both of the German drivers going incredibly aggressive on strategy here, and Svetkov following suit for the Russians as well. Now, do you see that playing out well for these guys? It's a bit of a gamble to go this early, surely.
I mean, it certainly is risky. You're going to be struggling here right at the end of the race, but for now it's going to do them a lot better because they're going to be on fresher tires. They can go a lot faster right now than all of the medium runners. The gap between the medium and the soft right here in Brazil is 0.5 of a second, and if you then include the difference in tire wear, I think these soft runners should be around 7 to 8 of a second faster than the medium runners that are still out on track.
Yeah, even though these tyres aren't very worn that all these guys are on, Hausmann has managed a mega undercut on his 1 lap. He's right behind his teammate now. And there were a good 7 or 8 positions between the two of them before Hausmann came into the pit. So that is very surprising to see. Now several other drivers reacting, getting rid of these medium tyres as they're all coming into the pits now. 5 of them. That is going to be Welch, Tarabukin, Boda, Akinci, and Burton all heading into the pits here to strap on a fresh set of softs, which will be enough to get them to the end of this race. Meanwhile, Vallejo at the front, 2 seconds now to Naukarinen, who's under a little bit of pressure from the Ferrari of Yildirim, and that's been the case ever since the beginning of the qualifying race here in Brazil.
Yeah, meanwhile, we are also looking at Martinez and Ma battling it out here over P7 with Atakaupinen and Sosa both right behind. So 4 drivers battling over 1 place here, and it's very, very close there. I think we can expect, if Pablo Hoglar drives out a 1 second gap to Martinez, which it looks like he will, right now at the detection point. I think it was 1.1, so Martinez will be a sitting duck here. Question is, will he pull into the pit lane? We have more. Now Karinen and Oz Yildirim shadow each other into the pit lane.
They are actually joined at the hip, those two drivers. They're battling no matter what. Meanwhile, here is Ma trying to defend from Atte Kalpanen, who goes around the outside and really squeezes the Chinese driver onto the apex of turn 1 there. Ma gives him the space, and Atte Kalpanen takes the position away, moves himself up into what is currently 6th position. But who knows, once all these pit stops have shaken out, exactly where he will be. 3 soft runners now at the very front, as that was Ma getting very, very close indeed to the AlphaTauri on that rear wing of Atte Kalpanen's car there. The Finn lives to fight another day, and no front wing damage for Ma either.
Yeah, that was my big worry there, that he was coming in so hard into that corner that he might actually chop off a part of his front wing. Thankfully, doesn't seem like that's the case, so he can fight on against this whole group here of Tom Martinez, Atte Kalpanen, and Sosa right behind. However, he seems to be a little bit on the back foot there against Sosa. Gap under 4/10 now between those two, so there might be a move into turn 1. Let's look at Vallejo. He stays out longer. He's still not coming in. In fact, the top 3 all staying out, but then this whole group except for Sosa all coming in. Martinez, Kalpanen, and Ma all together.
These people are all allergic to medium tyres, it would seem. The softs definitely the tyre to be on in most people's estimations, as Welch gets the fastest out of the race, but that gets taken away by Tyler Buchan. Welch is in a very good spot right now. He had an excellent launch off the line for the Team UK Racing Point boys, and ever since then he's looked really good. He's pulled the undercut early with this set of soft tyres, and now he's 2 seconds clear of Karinen, who himself is actually under pressure and getting passed by Yildirim, who moves himself up into 6th. That is going to become 3rd position, or maybe even 2nd, once everything has shooken out a bit more clearly here. Meanwhile, those who waited to pit, you can see them. Martinez, Atte Kalpanen, Tang and Ma, they're all much lower down than where they were beforehand. Waiting to pit later on in the race has definitely cost them for now.
Yeah, and important to note here that Louis Welch right now, as things stand, is the net leader of the race. As Vallejo does come in, it might be a bit too late. You lose about 18.5 seconds in the pit lane. The gap between Vallejo and Welch at the moment that Vallejo came into the pit lane was 18 seconds, so he will be just about half a second behind Welch. If my information is correct here, which it should be, we're gonna look at Vallejo and see where Welch is. Welch is coming through the center S right now, and Welch is already ahead.
Already ahead, but not by a huge amount. Vallejo's done a great job on those older soft tyres to manage to stay this close to Welch right now, as Naumann picks up a 3-second time penalty down in 9th. He and his teammate Houseman still very close beside one another. Beetle's going to retire from the session in the pit lane, so that is not good news for the Belgian boys in the Hasses. But for now, it is Welch leading the way, or will be leading the way, once Bial and Salsa come into the pits. Bial's still out there on old soft tyres, whereas Salsa, very interesting to see him doing such a different strategy to everyone else. Everyone else on the medium tyres wanted to get rid of them pretty much as quick as possible. But Felipe Sousa staying out there at his home Grand Prix.
Yeah, Bial is staying out as well. Both drive. Actually, Sosa is coming in now, so Bial will be the last one to stay out on track. And once again, if we look at the gap here from Sosa all the way back to the other drivers, he will probably rejoin behind almost everyone. He will definitely rejoin behind, I think, Boda, Martinez, Kalpanen, and then probably some few more. Maybe, yeah, Tang as well. He might be in front of Ma, possibly, but certainly behind Kalpanen, and that's exactly the gap he's coming out in. So P17 for him now, with Bial still making his pit stop.
Meanwhile, Pablo Hoglar has made another move for the Spanish team. He's up into 10th. That'll become 9th once Bial comes into the pit. So Hoglar waited a long time to pit, and he lost out a few positions, but now has much fresher tyres relative to the 2 Germans up ahead of him. So Houseman and Naumann, they're going to have to work together pretty well here, because they were the first 2 drivers, along with Svetkov, to come into the pits in this race. So they're going to really start feeling the wear on those soft tyres once we get towards the end of it. And you've got to imagine, unless they really work together well, Hoglar is going to make light work of the pair of them and move himself up into 8th and start chasing down Richie in 7th. Let's not forget, Richie's going to be on those medium tyres to the end as well, so he might not have too much to defend against Hoglard with if Hoglard can get past the two Red Bulls.
Yeah, and don't forget Bial as well. Bial will rejoin between Richie and this German duo here of Naumann and Hausmann. So Bial is going to be in this battle as well. We see it right there. Just rejoined after his pit stop. And if we look at Bial's tires right now, fresh medium. So he should be almost on pace with the soft runners that have already used their tires, especially Naumann and Hausmann. So Bial might not even fall into the clutches of those drivers and have a P7 for now. But Pablo Hoglard is on very fresh softs himself. If he can clear those two, he can pose a challenge. So Bial, I think, he might be a fan of the German team right now for them to hold back Hoglard. And as I say that, Hoglard goes for the move on Hausmann and gets him and gets P9.
Audacious stuff from Hoglard and Tabiko de Pato there, really sent it up the inside of Hausmann, and I don't think Hausmann was really ready for it, and as a result they made a little bit of contact. I don't think there was any damage, and Hoglard has been able to move up into ninth, but now Hausmann's giving him another go. He's out of battery pretty much, but he's still trying to push and get past the Renault, and he sends it! Look how far back he came from there, but he almost loses it on the exit of turn one, and as a result that is going to be Hoglard holding on to the position. Hausmann losing out to Chan Akinci as well. Let's not forget Akinci started from the very back in this race, and now he's looking to get past Hoglard as they head down towards Desquito de Lago. He's going to be around the outside of the Renault, and he makes the move stick. Beautiful stuff from the Turkish driver. What a recovery drive Chan Akinci has had thus far in this race. Started from the back, and now he's up in the ninth.
Yeah, fantastic race for him. I'm pretty sure the Turkish team is going to be happy with the overall performance. If we just look at how the drivers have fared, Akinci 11 positions. That's almost certainly a Driver of the Day award from the game. And I'm pretty sure he's going to feel like the Driver of the Day as well after starting dead last and now getting himself some good points here. And then, of course, Oz Yildirim up there in P3, still battling with the likes of Vallejo and now Karenin over a podium spot, and he still has one. So I'm pretty sure the Turks are going to be very, very happy about their performance so far. They just want to bring this home.
Yeah, we've got some very, very fast drives out to the front here. And Tarabukin also holding on really well in fifth for the Russian outfit. All of them pretty well clear of Richie, who is 2.5 thereabouts seconds behind them. But he is on medium tyres, so the race might come to him as these tyres get older. But there's only a few laps left to go now. We're more than halfway through this one as Chan Yu Tang looks to be making a move on Felipe Sousa. And that is Tang. Actually, he's been spun round as a result, I assume, of contact with the Mercedes. And the race goes from bad to worse for Team China. Ma really lost out in the pit stops, and Chan Yu Tang trying to make progress loses out and falls down into 19th and last on the road.
Yeah, but he's still battling with Burton here. Burton actually leaves him space on the inside, so at least he got one position back, but still not really what you're hoping for in this qualifier event. It's only the first race of 3. We still have 2 more 25% races to come after this, so do not go anywhere, because this race is about to heat up, and then we got 2 more to come.
Absolutely, and let's not forget as well, the top 15 in this race will be reversed to make up the grid for the second race in China. So there's all kinds of battling that can still go on, points all the way down to 15th position as well. So there's all the reason for these guys to keep fighting it out between themselves, even if they are in 12th and 13th. There's Bial looking to get past Richie there. Richie losing out to Bial. Meanwhile, Chan Akinci's been able to get past Naumann further back as well. So the absolute superstar drive from Chan Akinci continues as he brings his Ferrari up into 8th for Team Turkey. And now he's got 2 medium tyre runners up ahead, but hopefully he can eat into that gap and maybe start to challenge them as well.
Yeah, and I think 8th place right now, if he were to finish here, but he is closing in on Richie, so maybe, let's say 7th place. If he finishes there, maybe even 6th, because Bial isn't that far off either. That would bode well for the reverse grid race. He's already got the fastest drivers there behind him. When I look at Welch, Vallejo, Oz Yildirim, now Karenin, Tarabukin. So he's got some strong drivers behind him, and he's got drivers in front that he might fancy overtaking again, because he's done it in this race. So he's no stranger to making good overtakes happen, and a lot of overtakes happen. 12 places here.
Boda's just gone up the inside of two of them in towards turn one. He's got past Martinez, and he's accidentally got past Svetkov as well. I don't think he expected the Russian to be so slow on the apex, and now Atakalpanen is taking advantage of all the disorder and the chaos. And he is trying to get past. So is Felipe Sousa. This has led Tom Martinez to fall down into 16th. The Sousa gets pushed wide by Atakalpanen, and now Martinez goes straight back up his inside once again. And let's not forget, this battle over 15th and 16th is the battle for pole position in round 2. If you get 15th, you get pole. If you get 16th, you start 16th. So it's incredibly important to battle over that 15th place here in this race. Meanwhile, Atakalpanen and Svetkov, they're still battling as well. Tom Martinez doesn't want to give Svetkov an easy time of it, and he's trying to go up the inside of Biko de Pato. There's no space, no traction available, but the switchback is lovely. And into Junkao, Tom Martinez sends it up the inside. He's going to get a poorer run up the hill, especially if he goes off onto the grass there, and I think he took Svetkov with him, so that's landed Sousa back through as well, and up into 14th. Now Svetkov has a better run than Tom Martinez, but he hasn't got anything left in the battery, but nor has the racing point, so they're going to be side by side in a straight up battle in towards turn one here, but breaking later is Tom Martinez. He just about holds on there, but they might go again once they get down to Esquido de Lago in turn 4.
What a scintillating battle for half a lap. This looked like a 15th place wins the race kind of deal here. And all of a sudden, you know, this group has split a little bit. Ma is now getting involved here over the battle for 15th. The other ones have all moved further away. We see now a 1 second gap between Sosa and Martinez. So no DRS for the Brit as he's looking to keep that 15th place to start on reverse grid pole position for race 2.
Yeah, and weirdly, this is such a good position for Team UK right now. You've got Welch out there in the lead, looking to gain the maximum 25 points for this race. And you've got Martinez currently holding on to 15th and reverse grid pole for the next race. And surely, as long as he can convert a decent race from pole position in China, he should be able to get yet more points for the team. So that is going to be looking really good for them. The Spanish team also sitting pretty right now with 2nd and 9th. That's going to be a very good points haul for them. Hungarians doing all right with 6th and 12th. And of course, the Turks in 3rd and 8th. They're going to be getting plenty of points here in Interlagos as well. And they'll be looking to continue that into the second race in China. At the moment, it's Svetkov, Martang and Boyton who are the ones with the most trouble right now because they are outside of that top 15. They're outside of the points and they're outside of the reverse grid for China as well.
Yeah, it would leave 2 teams with 0 points right now and with an absolute mountain to climb in China and Belgium. And especially at their home race, I'm pretty sure a Chinese team was hoping for some different, fate there for them. But they're going to have a bunch of challenges in front of them here for the next race with only 2 laps to go. Who is going to win this one? We still have 5 drivers in this very, very close pack here. Around, what is this, 2 seconds away? Yeah, 2.2 seconds between those 5 drivers. Who is going to take the victory in the first round of the first qualifier here at the ORL Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming?
Ruben Vallejo's definitely in pole position for my money right now. Look how close he is behind Welch at this stage of the race. He's been slowly getting closer on these medium tyres. Those softs on Welch are 11 laps old. Svetkov's softs, 12 laps old. They're starting to really go off. He's losing a lot of time to Martinez and to Ma behind him as well. And Welch has similar tyre ages. That's as Yildirim and Nokarinen going side by side. Nokarinen trying to get past into Biko de Pato, but as Yildirim has the inside line and retakes the racing line for Junkao. So interesting attempt there for Nokarinen. What this does mean is that as Yildirim doesn't have DRS on the cars ahead, and that might leave him a sitting duck on the straight for Nokarinen to try and get past. Tarabukin's also there, and he's looking to get both of them. He's around on the high side now. They're 3 wide down towards turn 1, and it's the Ferrari on the inside, the Williams on the outside, and Tarabukin tries to hang it around. Now Karinen has to cede the position, and Tarabukin does indeed get both of them into the center S's as Yildirim holding on to 4. 4th, with now Karim now in 5th, and this battle isn't over yet, as Yildirim has more left in the battery, and he wants to try and go back around the outside of the Escudo de Lago, and he holds on. There's not much grip out there, and he's struggling to keep in control of that bucking Bronco over Ferrari, but he just about keeps his nose in there for Ferradura, the horseshoe. And Tarabukin now around the outside braves it out. Wall of Death, it's not over yet. Into 7 we go. And now down towards Pinarino, turn 8. It's so slippery at the best of times, but going side by side, it's going to be even more difficult. But Tarabukin is the master of that one. Vico de Pato, once again, as Yildirim thinking about the inside line. Meanwhile, at the very front, while all this has been going on, Vallejo has taken the lead on those medium tires, and the Spaniard who won the reverse grid qualifying race started from pole. Looked like Welch might have outdone him on strategy, but Vallejo, who went a different way, who started on those softs, is going to take the win in the first proper race of the day. 25 points to Team Spain. Welch comes home in second for Team UK. Meanwhile, as Yildirim just got Tarabukin on the line, and now Karinen comes across the line in 5th.
We don't even see what the gap is. It just shows a green and a red arrow. That's how close it was. This was the very definition of a photo finish between Oz Yildirim and Tarabukin. My goodness. How close was this? I want to see that gap, because it's got to be in the thousandths of a second, if not the exact same thousand. That would be mental. I want to see that gap right now.
For sure, yeah, that was an incredible finish between those two for what could be some very, very important points. 3rd place gets 18 points under the scoring system we have, and 4th place gets 16. And those 2 points could be everything once we get to the end of this. Remember, it's the top 1 team, it's the team with the most points that progresses from this qualifier. So it's all about being top 1. Top 2 or 3, not going to matter. You need to be that very number 1 team. And right now, I think that's going to be Spain who have the most points coming out of this one. The 2 Renault drivers managing top 10 finishes. Hoglar in 9th, with Vallejo taking the win. And there you can see the gap between them. It was 6 thousandths of a second between Yildirim and Tarabukin as they went across the line.
I mean, what a manic finish that was. Jeez, 6 thousandths of a second, 6 milliseconds between P3 and P4. And the difference between those two is 2 points. 18 for Oz Yildirim, 16 for Tarabukin here. And for the Russian squad, as, yeah, Spain, I'm pretty sure, I hope we get the numbers from the organizers, that we get sort of preliminary standings, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be Spain at the very top with, if I just calculated correctly, that would be 32 points for them. And I don't think anyone can beat that, considering how scattered the results were in terms of which teams ended up where with both of their drivers. So, my goodness, that was only the first race. We still have 2 more to come. So do not go anywhere. We will be right back for the second race, reverse grid around China.
It's time now. Your blood is burning. Your stamina is rising. Greet all the challenges in your way.
Alright, I'm ready.
Let's do this!
Time to farm some dubs. Crap, I got a squad on my right.
I'm running in for backup.
Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Ugh. Sorry guys, it happened again.
Damn. This is the 10th one today.
Alright, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
Yeah, I see you. You got him, you got him, you got him! Yes! Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
Guys, I can get used to this.
HyperX alloy, built strong because it has to be.
Welcome back then, everybody. After that brief break, we'll be getting into our second race of the day in China shortly. But let's just take a moment to reflect on that first round in Brazil. That 5-lap random grid race for qualifying definitely gave us a very interesting grid order. And it provided some challenges for certain drivers, but the likes of Chanik Hinchi coming from the very back to finish, I think, 8th at the checkered flag, maybe even 7th, shows that anything was possible. The grid order didn't necessarily mean you couldn't get some decent points, and a great drive from him on the day for Team Turkey. And that's going to be one of the teams who have a lot of points coming out of that one. Team UK will have a fair amount. I think Team Spain, though, should be out in front.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the battle between those two teams here, Spain and the UK. They seemed the strongest in the first race among both drivers. And of course, we have to talk about Team UK here. I think they did get second place in the reverse grid, and second place, obviously, with Louis Welch in the first race. So they're going to have a very good starting position for Tom Martinez. And Louis Welch has shown in the reverse grid qualifying sprint race, the random grid qualifying sprint race, the 5-lapper, that he is definitely capable of getting some overtakes done in a short amount of time. He got the Drive of the Day award from the game, which means he gained the most positions out of everyone in that 5-lap race. So I think from 14th, Louis Welch still a force to be reckoned with, and Tom Martinez from P2, if he can bring that to a good finish, and we've seen the battling and the defending that he's done, there's certainly a chance that Team UK can overtake Team Spain here in the second event.
Absolutely. Tom Martinez setting it up beautifully. I think he's actually going to be replaced going into the second race. We're going to have a few substitutions from a few of these teams. I believe Dylan Warren is going to be taking Tom Martinez's place for this race. So it'll be him lining up on the front row of the grid, unless I'm very much mistaken. A few other drivers are arriving. We have Napadovsky, who's going to be replacing Tsvetkov for the Russian team going in here in China. Yuan will be participating for the Chinese team themselves in place of Ma. The Germans are going to be subbing out both of their drivers. Naumann and Hausmann will be replaced by Parnell and Dormeyer. And that is Liam Parnell and Andy Dormeyer, of course. And there's going to be a fair few other substitutions as well. So we'll try and keep you posted on those as we learn of them. But why don't we just take a moment to think about this track that we're coming up to here? China, a rather different circuit, the Shanghai International Circuit, compared to Interlagos. Different challenges from the drivers. What's your view on it?
It is a circuit that is ranking rather low in terms of average lap speed, at around 212 kilometers per hour on the the real life lap record, which obviously is one of the oldest real life lap records in F1, set in 2004 by Michael Schumacher. The only other ones from 2004 are Australia and Italy, not exactly tracks you would consider slow. But for some reason, China, because it's very different. China has the long, massive straight, over a kilometer long, the back straight. It has the main straight that's quite significant in length as well. And then you have turn 6. You have this heavy braking zone. You have the hairpin at the end of the back straight. You have these massive braking zones. Great overtaking opportunities. And then, of course, you have turns 1, 2, 3, 4, the first snail. You have the second snail right before the long back straight. So it's a very challenging track. Many different corners, fast, slow, hairpins even. And it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers fare there. It is one of the tracks where generally two things matter the most. A, being an all-rounder, being capable of driving any kind of corner, not having any kind of weakness, and being equally strong everywhere. And tire wear and tire management, because the soft tire doesn't last very long and it overheats quite easily as well. So I don't think we'll see the drivers stay on the soft tire for all too long, but at the same time, it might only last 7 laps, but in fresh condition, It is 1.4 seconds a lap faster than the medium.
And let's not forget that we have a 25% race as well, which definitely throws the cat amongst the pigeons, because most of these drivers will be most used to 50% races. But with a 25% race, it definitely alters the strategical outlook for the majority of these teams going into this one. And we'll see who that's going to favor and which strategies it will favor as well. One driver I'm going to be thinking about looking out for in this one, he'll be starting from the second row, third position, is going to be Atte Kauppinen. Of course, F1 Esports Challenger Series driver. It's a lot of pedigree, very, very fast guy. Only managed a 13th place finish in Brazil, but that sets him up for success going into China. And the Finnish team, I believe, is going to be participating with Tino Naukarinen and Atte Kauppinen throughout the whole of this event today. So we're not going to be seeing any substitutions from them. So it will be Atte Kauppinen starting, reaping his own benefits there and starting in third.
Yeah, it's certainly a good starting point there. Sort of mirroring what we said earlier about Team UK, where they had second and reverse pole second. And the Finns are doing pretty much the same thing here, with Kauppinen being reverse grid third. And I think now Karina finished fourth, ultimately only being snatched away there by Oz Yildirim right at the line. And they're sort of doing almost the same thing, except not as extreme. But that might be a blessing in disguise, because Louis Welch is going to have a whole lot of positions to work up through the grid and through the ranks, whereas Atte Kauppinen, he doesn't have that much, or not Tino Naukarinen, mixed them up, apologies. Tino Naukarinen doesn't have that many positions in front of him, two less to worry about, and so he might be in a better position there, looking at how the grid is going to stack up, and it might help them being more consistent and scoring really good points with both drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It could well prove to be the better outcome in the long run for that team. A couple of other substitutions have now come through. That is Dylan Warren, who will be replacing Tom Martinez. He has arrived in the lobby. And Felix Neuberger, who is more commonly known as Get Owned to many people who will watch ORL. Recently, he has been in Split A in this last season. I believe he was the champion of Split B the season before. So definitely a very quick driver. He will be driving for the World X team. He's going to be replacing Ace Ritchie for this one, the Dutchman. So we're going to be replacing him with an Austrian in that international lineup. And yeah, just waiting for all the drivers to get in. I think everyone is here in the lobby now, so we should be able to get underway in China in just a few moments' time. But for now, we can just think a little bit more about what drivers we're expecting to do well, who we're looking for, and maybe any of these substitutions. Are there any of these substitutions coming through that you're sort of thinking, now this team has a better chance, or anything like that?
I'm thinking that Team UK was looking at the regulations that were being a bit sneaky there, and they were thinking, you know what if, Tom 97 in the first race, he is fast, he's incredibly fast, but if he finishes a little bit lower, sometimes he has a little bit of bad luck. I would say he's fast, but not on the pace of a Louis Welch. And Dylan Warren is closer to Louis Welch. Louis is incredibly quick. We've seen it many times in all of league racing, really. And to switch them out like that, to bring in Dylan Warren for now what is a second place on the grid. Dylan Warren is the one I'm looking at thinking, hey, he might actually win this race. He's got the pace. He's got a very, very good starting position. If he just has a little bit of luck and doesn't get tangled up in any kind of incidents, then he's got a very, very good chance of taking home 25 points for Team UK and reversing the order with Team Spain.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's going to be something to watch, is Team UK versus Team Spain as we go on ahead of it. And thinking of the Spaniards, that is going to be Vallejo, of course, starting down in 15th in this one, the punishment for winning that first race. And Pablo Joglar is going to be starting, I believe, in P6, unless I'm very much mistaken. No, P7, sorry.
P7, yes.
He'll be starting 7th on the grid for the Renault boys. So that will be in a better position for success for him compared to where he started in our first race. But the drivers are now readying up, so we should be getting into China anytime soon. But while we just get these finishing touches done, why don't you guys all in chat let us know who you're hoping to win and who you reckon is going to win this second race here today, and also which team you're hoping progresses overall.
Yeah, I think one team that we should see fare a little bit better, even better than in the first race, should be Team Turkey. They're going to move down on the grid in terms of net positions, but we saw how fast Oz Yildirim is, and we saw how well through the field Akinji can move. So those two drivers should be moving up quite well. And again, it's going to come down to, for most of these drivers, that they don't get tangled up in any kind of incident, because around here, around China, there are so many corners where going side by side might get a little bit more tricky than it does around Brazil, where you have more fast sweeping corners where going side by side might easier lead to a mistake, and that can ultimately claim a driver who had nothing to do with that mistake. So we hope, obviously, that all drivers do not lose their races in any way, shape, or form, but it can always happen, and China is a track where it can very, very well happen.
Absolutely, definitely. I've seen some mega incidents, particularly if someone loses it on the exit of turn 13 onto the great big long back straight. Sometimes if a car loses it there is sideways on the exit of that corner and someone's ready to go barreling down that straight, you can have some very major incidents there, and it can be no one's fault, really. So, yeah, hopefully we can avoid anything like that coming through here at Shanghai today, as we are now into the game itself. The drivers just finishing the final touches on their setups before we can get going on the formation lap for this second 25% race of the day here in the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. And yeah, here in China is the destination. Seeing a lot of support for Team Hungary there in the chat. So hopefully for you guys, they can put on a better showing. It was a decent showing for Bial and Boda in the first race of the day, but they'll be hoping to get even more out of this one.
Yeah, they've been doing well. Bial has been moving through the field quite well as well on his strategy there as well, where he was the last one to pit and then had just much better tires, and he picked his moves wisely. So it really worked out well for him ultimately. And Boda, I think he's one to look out for as well, as both McLarens are starting rather high up the grid. Boda in 5th, Bial in 10th. The drivers are now heading out for the formation lap. And we see here Dormeyer on pole position. And we look at the tires, and once again we see what we saw for the first race. We see 3 drivers on the softs, everyone else on the mediums. It's Dylan Warren, Boda, and Burton, who are going for what is really now the alternate strategy, which used to be the original, the normal strategy. But in a reverse grid race, everyone has free tire choice, and as such, most drivers opt for the mediums. Only those 3 do not. So Burton, he's the one I'm really surprised by, because generally if you're further down the field, you are more likely to go for the harder tire first, because you'll be stuck in the pack and you're not going to make too many moves. Overtaking is difficult, and as such, you'd rather use the tire that gives you a little bit more durability so you can stay in the pack for longer. But, you know, maybe with the softs, if he can make some moves, then pit, then have an undercut as well, he can earn some positions that way. Whereas for Dylan Warren and Boda, they need to make only a few moves, but they need to make them quickly to get past either one German in case of Dylan Warren, or both Germans and Atakaupinen in the case of Boda, to then try and drive away from the pack. Again, 1.4 seconds, the difference between the softs and the mediums here at the start of this race.
Yeah, very big delta, and it's going to be so important for the likes of Boda and Warren to get a good start. But Warren disconnecting from the session here. That is not good news at all for Team UK. Hopefully he can get back in time. Thankfully, the negative tire temperature glitch has been sorted out, but that's a very bad time for Dylan Warren to disconnect from this session. Doesn't have long to get back into it, but here he is back, and hopefully back in control of that car in just a moment's time here. because we're really looking forward to seeing what he can do from the front row as the two Chinese drivers and then the two Belgians line up at the very back of the grid, getting us ready for the second race of the day here in China.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one, I think. We are getting underway here. 5 red lights. And the race is on, and Dormeyer with a good start. Warren, I don't know if he is in control of his car. I think he is. He's already challenging for the lead into turn 1, and he has it.
Yeah, that's got to be Warren in control of that one. Lovely start once again from the Team UK drivers. Oh, and that's Parnell that's gone around. Liam Parnell has been sent spinning round and halfway through turn 1 there. Not sure, I think it might have been one of the World X drivers that made contact with the Red Bull up his rear end and sending him spinning all the way around. Now Nokarinen is once again battling with the Turkish driver in a Ferrari. This time, though, it's Chanakinchi who he finds up his inside in towards turn 6. And now they're going to be running down towards 7. He has the inside line for 7, but Akinchi's still alongside, but cannot hold it around the outside of that corner. Has to just slot him behind for turn 8. Meanwhile, as Yildirim's not exactly had the best start of all time, down to 14th for him. Vallejo has managed a couple of positions. It's been a good start for the two Chinese drivers, who are up into 15th and 16th respectively. Vallejo now getting past Tarabukin as well. Tarabukin trying to hold it back around the outside of turn 11. Into 12 we go. Akinchi and Welch are also side by side there. The Turks and the Brits are going to be definitely neck and neck in the point standings in this one. And this battle could mean the world to both of these teams as we head down the very long back straight here. Welch seems to have a much better run down the straight, and here comes Tarabukin as well, and Vallejo's getting interested. This could be absolutely chaotic down in towards the hairpin, but they will get it slowed down without any issue, without any contact. It's Welch from Tarabukin, and then Akinchi, who might try and brave it around the outside of the final corner, but he's going to run out of road there. Just about keeps his foot in it, though. Meanwhile, that's just the timing Tara sorting itself out. This battle's still going to continue. Tarabukin, Akinchi, now Vallejo trying to go up the inside of turn 1. Thinks better of it. Very sensible stuff from the Spaniard. Akinchi pushes Tarabukin wide, and there goes Vallejo up both of their insides and taking the racing line for turn 3. Meanwhile, as Yildirim is very close, he might have made a bit of contact with his Ferrari teammate there. The two Turks coming together. They're both making progress up through the field.
Yeah, we're waiting for the timing to really sort itself out right now. It's going to take a couple moments here. But I think we are good now. It says lap 2, so we are fine. And yeah, Akinji lost a whole bunch of positions down into 14th now. And battling here. And Oz Yildirim did not gain any off the start. So he's still in P13. I think the biggest movers here as a team altogether are probably, they are the Hungarians. Boda up to P3 in a podium spot, and Bial already up to P7. We saw how well he moves through the field, and he does it once again, where he's already gaining 3 places in the first 2 laps. So for the Hungarians, this might be their moment. We're looking at the standings. 7 teams have scored at least half of the points of the sort of winners of the first race, Spain, who have 32. So 7 teams are either Spain or 16 points behind Spain or less. So it's all to fight for. The 3 teams falling off a little bit are, as mentioned before, China and Belgium with 0 points each, and Germany at only 5 points, but they have Dormeyer up there. So that might go well for them. And Liam Parnell, well, he's down in 17th as Boda pits very early to get rid of these softs and has to basically do what he did last time, where he needs to use this clean air. Sosa leaves the session. He's in P6 right now, and he will lose some positions. Hoglar goes through him, and now Karinen and Welch will take positions as well. Very, very unfortunate there for Sosa. Let's hope he can rejoin as quickly as possible. Drivers do have spare invites, so they should be able to join quickly if they do disconnect. We saw it with Dylan Warren. He was back within, what, 5 seconds, it feels like. Oh, and for Felipe Sosa, apparently the game crashed altogether. So that will take a little bit longer to restart the game.
Very, very rough stuff for the Brazilian, who had a decent race in his home Grand Prix at Brazil. But now, it was going so well for the World X drivers as well. They're in 4th and 6th. They were having a really good time of it in this one. And now it's just Neuberger out there at the front, the Austrian, trying to fly the flag for that particular team. Bial is close behind him with Hoglar in tow and now Karinen. Plenty of fast drivers in and about that sort of 5th to 8th mark, 5th to 9th, Vallejo there as well. Tarabukin once again going along with some of the very fastest drivers in this field as well. Things have stabilized a little bit now for Team Turkey as Yildirim and Akinci. Akinci lost many positions at the start of this race, unfortunate for him. But now they can look to try and focus in, get resettled down in this race. Only 4 laps in, so plenty of time left to go in this one. Meanwhile, though, at the very front, Dylan Warren now 2.2 seconds ahead of Andreas Dormeyer in second. He himself has actually cleared Atte Kauppinen out of DRS range in third.
Yeah, and one thing to note, as I think we will see more and more pit stops here. Although, no, most drivers are on medium tires, so I wouldn't expect many pit stops, actually, as the 2 drivers that started on softs got them out of the way very early, so those medium runners will all go very, very deep. But the one thing we will have to look out for later is that you lose 22.5 seconds in the pit lane here, which ultimately will lead to a bunch of changes. Dylan Warren has left again. He's in the lead by 1.8 seconds right now. There will be no DRS for Dormeyer, but Dormeyer, if Warren doesn't rejoin quickly, then Dormeyer might find himself in the lead of the race.
I mean, the question right now is, does Dylan Warren have enough spare invites? He's already used one. Hopefully he can get back into this lobby some way, somehow. Meanwhile, his teammate Welch very close behind now Karinen right now, but not close enough to think about a move down into the hairpin turn 14. Now Karinen holding on to 7th for the time being. The gaps are starting to spread out a little bit inside that top 10, but Dormeyer getting closer to Warren. Warren back in the session once again. This could be critical, but he needs to make sure that this doesn't keep happening right now. He's not quite in control of his car just yet, and Dormeyer is still getting closer. Second by second, the Red Bull closes in on the racing point. And Dormeyer will have seen that Warren's rejoined the session, so he might be very keen to try and drive through him as quick as possible, but there he is, back in control of the car. Dylan Warren still leading this race, but his advantage has been scythed into now as a result of that issue.
Yeah, it really, really is painful to see. It looked so good for Team UK, and it still kind of does, P1 and P8. But for Dylan Warren, he needed a bit more of a gap because of his different tire choice here. He needs to pull out this gap early with the tire still being advantageous to him, because at this point, they're almost not. The gap, as much as it was 1.4 seconds at the start of the race, because of this huge gap in lifespan between the 2 tires, that gap that he can drive out every single lap has also been shrinking, and he hasn't driven out any gap to Dormeyer because of the disconnection issues. Otherwise, he would have been around 2 seconds away at the very least from the German behind in the Red Bull.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Welch once again losing out a little bit on the straight to now Karinen here, as they're all just in a bit of a DRS train right now. Hoglar got very deep on the brakes, almost careened into the back of Bial there. Hungarian in the McLaren. Sousa is back, but not really soon enough for it to do too much for him. Down in 18th place for the time being. Dylan Warren pitting from the lead and having all kinds of connection issues right now, so hopefully this is him in control of the car, and this is a decision he would want to make. He is the last driver to get rid of these soft tires, so I think it makes a lot of sense to come into the pits here. He'll be back out down at the very bottom in 18th or maybe even 19th. Boda coming up hot.
Yeah, I think what happened was, they are side by side to turn 1 here, but Warren should have more grip and the inside line, which should see him through, and it does, as he pulls right in front of Boda there. But yeah, I think the issue with Warren was that he may have, I have no confirmation of this, but I'm speculating that he may have wanted to pit on lap 4, but then he got the disconnect, and then he couldn't. His AI did not pit, did not go into the pit lane, and as such, he had to rejoin on lap 5 and then did the pit stop 1 lap later. And it cost him a little bit in that regard, maybe as well, that he did not do what he considered to be the ideal strategy. And Sosa has retaken his car as well in P17 now, so that's why we're not seeing any intervals right now, as he had rejoined in time too. We have a yellow flag in sector 1. I think that is just for Burton, who has retired in the pit lane. His car decided to drive out again and then park somewhere. But no major issue there as the interval is coming back now. We have a yellow flag in sectors 1 and 2. Don't know what that is for. I think still Burton, isn't it?
Yeah, that's still Burton's car. It's decided to do pretty much the whole of Sector 1 before getting off the road there, but thankfully the AI has now been able to retire that car off towards the side of the road. Now, Dormeyer leading from Attakalpanen, who is 8 tenths, more like 9 tenths behind him, but just about in DRS range, which could be critical. Felix Neuberger falling a little bit further behind there in third, with Bial closing in on him. The Hungarian really wants another position there. Oglar in fifth, after starting very high up in this one. And now Karinen in 6th with Welch in 7th. Vallejo, who started from 15th after winning the first race of the day, is up into 8th once again, looking to score some very good points for Team Spain, who are very, very much in a very good spot right now, with being the team with the most points and looking like they're going to get a very decent haul here in China as well. Right now, the Turkish team are the ones who are in the most trouble. They went into this race second in the standings, but right now only 10th and 11th for Yildirim and Akinci. After Akinci had a really poor start to this race, Yildirim will be keen to try and get past Tarabukin, but there's such a DRS train of cars ahead of them that it's going to be so hard for anyone to make an imprint there.
Yeah, meanwhile, we do get a message in the chat there from Burton, who's saying it is embarrassing. He forgot to load up his setup. He looked too much at the strategy and forgot to load up the setup, as we have more drivers coming into the pit lane. We saw it in the back there. Yuan is coming in. Napadovsky is coming in. I think I saw a third one there, but I'm not sure. Actually, it might just be those two. Let's see who has already pitted. Now, everyone outside the top 15 and Yuan and Napadovsky are in right now. So everyone else, the top 13, still yet to make their pit stops.
Yeah, Parnell and Sosa, two drivers who had their races compromised. Parnell, by contact in turn 1, someone hit his rear end and sent him spinning. And Sosa, by a disconnection issue. They've both come into the pits a lap ago for a set of soft tyres to try and pull some kind of undercut, and that has triggered the response from Yuan and from Napadovsky, who are able to prevent the undercut from being executed there by Liam Parnell, who's stuck once again behind the rear wing of the Russian in the Williams in the form of Napadovsky. Currently in 17th and 18th, but once more people come into the pits, that might change a little bit here. Top 15 score points once again here today, but the third race will not be a reverse grid race, so drivers don't need to worry about that for grid position here. It's just all about the points in this one before we go to Japan, where we'll have a short qualifying session to determine the grid there.
Yeah, for those who are watching who may not know what short qualifying means, one session, 18 minutes. If you've ever watched any kind of F1 league racing, you will know exactly what that qualifying format looks like, as we have Dormeyer in the pit lane, Neuberger in the pit lane, Hoglar, Nakarin, Welch, Tarabukin, Oz Yildirim, Tang, almost everyone coming in right now. That means we're going to have to look at the gaps here, as I think Warren and Boda will clear all of them. And yeah, and then I think most of them will be ahead of Yuan, or at least, yeah, I would say most of them will be, as Dormeyer is exactly there. Hoglar, Welch, Nakarin. Oh, actually, Yuan moving up to P9. So only 2 drivers in Dormeyer and Hoglar have cleared Yuan, and only one of them significantly. Hoglar, that was close, half a second there. So Yuan still with a chance to get that place. Is he gonna try it here? He's gonna, oh, he's gonna go for it. Down the inside, and there's contact. The Renault, no, Welch is actually trying it. Sorry, I mixed up the cars there. Welch is going for the move on Yuan, so he's immediately on the back foot here. Oh, and he almost loses it.
More contact there between Welch and Yuan. Yuan almost losing it, but just about holding on to the car in the end. He has played a blinder with the strategy right now, undercut several cars, up in a 10th now for Team China, and that would be some much needed points for them. I think they're pretty much out of the running in terms of qualifying. They would like to score some points at their home race, no doubt about that. Right now, he's got Tino Naukarinen behind him, though, and of all drivers to have behind you, that is not one you would like to see an ex-F1 esports driver for Williams Right now, driving an Alpha Tauri for Team Finland, chasing down Yuan in that Alfa Romeo. Meanwhile, further up, Welch is having a go at Pablo Hoglard. Hoglard doesn't have DRS, and he's a bit of a sitting duck here. And Welch makes it through. That could be critical. The battle between Team UK and Team Spain might well be one of the battles that will be over the ultimate top spot and qualification through this first qualifier. Meanwhile, 4 more drivers have pitted. That's Atakalpinen, Bial, Vallejo, and Akinci have all come into the pit. Bial comes out just ahead of Welch there. Bial manages to hold on to 5th. Atakalpinen and Dormeyer are very close. Atakalpinen has been able to get past Dormeyer here in the pit stops, and he moves himself up into what is currently 3rd.
Yeah, that means all drivers have now made their pit stops. No one has to pit anymore. So from this point onwards, it's 5 laps all the way to the end for all of them. It's basically a 5-lap sprint race with a slightly... Oh, there's something going on there with Naukarin. And oh, a 3-way battle there. That's some front wing gone. That is Vallejo's, and that might really hurt the Spanish team. Vallejo's still trying to get you on here. Right now, Team UK and Team Hungary seem like they are in charge. UK P1, P6, Hungary P2, P5. A fantastic result if they bring that to the line. Finland doing well, 3 and 8. Spain 7 and 10. And on top of the 10, front wing damage for Vallejo. So that might see him fall further down the order with 4 laps still to go.
But no one's told Vallejo that front wing damage is meant to slow you down. He's having a run at Yuan here, down the back straight. He's going to send a dive bomb up the inside of the Alfa Romeo. They make contact. Yuan is forced wide, there's ghosting, and Yuan can just drive clean back through the Renault there. Vallejo is going to be so frustrated. He was doing nothing wrong. Just 3 wide in that moment. Yuan went into Naukarinen, and Naukarinen therefore went into Vallejo. And it's only the Spaniard that picked up damage in that incident. Terrible luck for him. Terrible luck for the Spaniards as well. Meanwhile, out at the very front, Warren's having some connection issues, and Atakalpinen, who's been able to get past Boda, is now looking to try and get past the racing point for the lead of this race. He's weaving behind him. Warren is jumping about all over the place with this connection right now. That's a very tricky prospect for Atakalpinen, because if he tries to make the move and there's a lag spike, he could find himself in the wall. Meanwhile, further back, that's Dormeyer, also on soft tyres, getting past Boda. There's that 1.4 second differential you mentioned. Both Atakalpinen and Dormeyer making light work of the Hungarian, who drops down into 4th. Next up is his teammate Bial. I'm sure Boda will want to let him through pretty quickly. Yeah,
Bial has a good chance here of catching up to these two, and I think there will be something as Dylan Ward has left the session. And where is he now? Hold on. Welch is in 5th. Where's Warren? 16th.
The road.
Yeah,
he's on the road. The car is doing donuts here. The racing point is doing donuts.
No.
And I believe that's the AI that's doing donuts off in the wall. I don't know if Warren's left or if there's been a lag spike or what has happened there. Meanwhile, the Turks have changed position. Chanakinchi has been able to get past. Warren has rejoined the race, and he's going to be very upset to find out what's happened to his car. Meanwhile, Karabukin's putting it up the inside of Ozildarim into the hairpin. Napadowski has retired from this race as well. I think there might have been an incident between himself and another driver on the way in towards turn 8. Vallejo actually is still battling with Yuan. They're still trying to find out who can get past Vallejo with that front wing damage still very, very fast, despite that lack of downforce at the very front. And he taps the rear end of Yuan and almost sends him round. That gives Vallejo an opportunity on the exit of turn 3 around the outside. There's better traction there. He's pushed a little bit wide, but he uses the curve, and now bumping wheels once again. Felix Neuberger might be looking to get involved in this one as well. Wants to go up the inside of Yuan, and Vallejo goes too deep. This could be Christmas come early for Neuberger, who's able to get past. Meanwhile, there's further front wing damage. I'm not sure who that came on.
Vallejo again, the other end plate.
Vallejo ground. He's gone into the side of Neuberger. Akinci had to get out of it to avoid him. The car ghosted just about in time, but Akinci's lost out 3 positions and maybe a 4th here, as Jian Yu Tang's looking to get involved on the inside all of a sudden. All kinds of chaos once again sprouting out here. And Vallejo, who won the first race, finds himself down in 15th, looking to score 1 solitary point for this one.
Yeah, he finds himself back where he started after the wonderful performance of the first race. It's all coming full circle. Unfortunately, he was doing so well, but 2 incidents in the middle sector, both times before the fast sweeping left-hander. And he finds himself down in P15 as here goes Kinji on Tang. Does tangle up with him a little bit, no pun intended. but slight contact there. I think that was no damage there for Akinji, and Dylan Warren has, after all of this, retired the car. He could have won, but the sim racing gods had other ideas.
Sim racing and maybe the connection gods as well. Really rough stuff for Dylan Warren, because he had the pace to win this one. Atte Kalpanen and Andreas Dormeyer were definitely going to be closing him down, but he still was very much in with a shout with some very decent points for Team UK, and it's all gone wrong for them. Now Karinen's losing out to Boda here, because Boda is on medium tyres right now, and maybe these softs are starting to fall away once again. It's only been 3 laps on them, but we're into the penultimate lap of the race now, and they might be feeling a little bit worse for wear. Very interesting, actually, to see both Vallejo and Warren, the demise of both of those drivers. That's the 2 of the top teams in our standings right now, and the Turks aren't looking to score a huge amount of points either. Tarabukin has had an issue. He's gone round out the exit of turn 9 there. That's bad news for the Russians, with Napadolsky retiring and Tarabukin down in 15th, and with a penalty to his name. They are going to be pretty much out of the running going into the 3rd and final race of the day. But things are going to be really mixed up at the top now. The Finns might be in pole position all of a sudden to take advantage of all these issues for the UK and Hungarian, and the Spanish drivers. Meanwhile, Dormeyer, speaking of Hungarian drivers, Dormeyer has been able to get past the Hungarian Bial and move himself back up into 2nd. This battle might not be over yet, because Bial has the DRS and he's going to be chasing Dormeyer down towards turn 1.
Yeah, he's not going to try it here, though. You want to be smart. Oh, actually, I was going to say you want to be smart, but Bial is trying it round the outside, and he's still there, and now gets the inside for the left-hander. Does he have him? We're waiting. We can't see anything. He does! Coming out of the corner there. We were on stream, we were waiting. We were trying to see, because we had the camera on the exit of the corner. The cars weren't on screen, and then Bial comes out, emerges first. I think that's how they consumed F1 in the olden days, back when there wasn't a camera for every single inch of the track. And Bial is now 2nd, but he's going to have to defend that down the back straight. He needs a really, really strong exit, and even then, considering it's over a kilometer long, depending on how much ERS the 2 drivers have, this might be futile for Bial to try and defend from Dormeyer and get this 2nd place. Right now, Finland look to take home the most points here and potentially even jump into the lead of the standings after the misfortune of the Spanish and UK teams respectively.
Yeah, at least for those 2 teams, Welch and Hoglar are there in 4th and 5th. But I still don't think that's going to be enough for them going forward here. It's going to be very, very close going into the last few rounds. That much is for certain, as Atte Kalpanen crosses the line to take the win for Finland. Bial manages a very solid 2nd for the Hungarians, and Dormeyer gets Germany's best result of the day by far in 3rd. Welch manages 4th, Hoglar 5th, Boda then in 6th, Neuberger 7th. Now Karinen with penalties drops down to 8th. That's going to put a bit of a damper on it for Finland, but nevertheless a great points haul for them, as Yildirim couldn't quite get him before the line, and he's going to be 9th. And that is going to be the best result for Team Turkey as well, who went into this one 2nd. Haven't managed to score very many points at all here in China.
Yeah, but at least they get a decent haul of points with both drivers consistently, as they will ultimately get a P9 and P10. That would be 13 points between both drivers. That's basically the same as a P6 and a P15. That would also get you that. A P5 would get you more single-handedly. So they get something with the 26 points from the first race. That'd be 39, but they will still find themselves definitely behind Spain. And I think at that point behind the UK as well. And Finland and Hungary were both on 17. Finland might actually take the lead in the standings. We're going to have to calculate that, but here are the results. Atte Kalpanen wins this race, gets 25 points for Finland, and then we look at Naukarin in P8, and that is an extra 8 points. So they get 33 more than Spain got in the first race. I think Finland might actually be able to jump up the order. Then we have Bial in 2nd, Dormeyer 3rd, Welch 4th, Hoglar 5th, Boda 6th. Hungary doing bits here right now. They're gonna be all over the title fight, all of the qualification fight as well. Only one team progresses to the main event in 2 weeks and onwards, so it's all to play for in the final race for about if I calculate that correctly, for about 5 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of teams still in this one right now, and that is what we love to see going into the final round as well. It's effectively a clean slate going into the final round in Japan because we're just going to have a regular short qualifying session, 18 minutes of qualifying. The fastest laps take the top spots in the grid, and then a 25% race thereafter. So don't go anywhere because we'll be back very shortly for that one. And yeah, we'll be back in a few minutes' time.
It's time now. Your blood is burning. Your stamina is rising. Greet all the challenges in your way.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice. And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless? On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. We've had 2 of our 3 races here today in the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. The first qualifier, the first 2 rounds are done and dusted. They were Brazil and China. And coming out of those, it looks like Team Finland is going to be the team to beat going into our final round here in Japan. And with a lineup of ex-F1 Esports driver Tino Naukarinen and current F1 Esports Challenger Series driver Atte Kauppinen, I think we could have seen that one coming. Stalwart defense from the likes of UK and Spain, who would be in a much better spot if it wasn't for terrible misfortune for Dylan Warren, who was leading the race for UK, who had some internet issues. And meanwhile, Ruben Vallejo, who won our first race in Brazil, the Spaniard was knocked out after an incident there with Yuan and then with Neuberger. He went spinning out and down towards the bottom end of the order, didn't score very many points at all. So a bit of a rough race for both of those teams, and as a result, plenty of other teams are still in the mix, having caught up to them on points.
Yeah, it's going to be all to play for here in this final race. Short qualifying, 18 minutes, followed by another 25% race around a track that is absolutely beloved by many drivers. It is the Suzuka International Racing Course in Japan, 5.8 kilometers long. The only figure 8 track on the calendar, and I think the only figure 8 track that F1 has ever raced on.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that one. I certainly can't think of any others. And going into this track, which is some drivers' favorite, there's a lot of people who really like this circuit. There are going to be a few more changes in personnel between teams. So once again, we'll let you know about those as we get them. But there's not going to be any change of personnel here in the commentary box. I am still Aladar, and I'm still joined by Badgerman here alongside me to bring you all the action here today. And I hope you've been enjoying the show we've been bringing for you thus far. We've had plenty of action on track to talk about, and it's been great fun experimenting with these new formats as well, this new style of competition. I've personally been having a great time.
Yeah, same. It really is something different. It requires the drivers to change their approach a little bit. It's just throwing them not into complete cold water, but water that's been slightly tempered down, slightly colder than, than the comfort zone would allow for. So the drivers have to adjust. They have to change their approach a little bit based on the regulations. But this last one, this is going to be very familiar to them, the short qualifying. The race is a little bit shorter than they probably know from all the league racing they've done. But other than that, short qualifying, 18 minutes. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some drivers in their first stint of qualifying using intermediate tires, even in dry conditions, just so they don't have to use a dry set of tires that they might want to use in the race. Although, because they get 4 sets of the softs and they don't get any mediums or hards in qualifying. So 4 sets of the softs it will be. And we'll see how it goes as the drivers are loading in. Let's talk a bit about the track. The Suzuka International Racing course, we already said 5.8 kilometers long, 3.6 miles for our American friends. We're going to have is it 13 or 14 laps. It's 27 on 50%. So that means it rounds up, right, to 14.
I think that's right. I'm pretty sure it's 14, though I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, I think it's 14.
Yeah, and one thing to note about this track that you don't really, I mean, for a lot of viewers and for a lot of F1 fans, you don't look at this track and think, oh yeah, it's an absolute massive power track. That's your sort of Austria, Silverstone, Belgium, Italy. But other than those 4 tracks, if we exclude those 4 that I just mentioned, Japan, on average lap speed, is the fastest track on the F1 calendar. Faster than Australia, faster than France, faster than Mexico, faster than Russia, faster than any other track except the 4 I just mentioned: Austria, Silverstone, Spa, and Monza.
Absolutely. It's definitely not one of those ones that people would expect to be right up there, but there's a lot of very high average speed. There's only a couple of real traction zones around the circuit. There's quite a lot of high-speed corners, particularly in that first section, the S's that everyone loves here in Suzuka, especially when you get them right. When you get them wrong, maybe people don't love them quite so much. But yeah, we'll be bringing you the race as soon as we have it. Of course, we're just having to set up the lobby and all that sort of stuff. So bear with us while we sort out that kind of thing. And meanwhile, why don't you let us know what you guys think of everything that's been going on thus far in chat. And let us know who you are supporting. We've seen plenty of support for Team Hungary thus far. Let's see who else has the fans here today.
Yeah, meanwhile, just a quick note, the reason why it takes so long for all the viewers who may be wondering, well, it doesn't take that long usually. It is an all-new lobby that's being set up after the issues that we saw in terms of connection with Dylan Warren in race 2, the lobby, and with Felipe Sosa as well. A new lobby is being set up, and we are just getting that underway. So it will take a couple more moments for us to get underway, and then it's going to be Japan. And it is certainly a track where we have seen our fair share of rain as well. We haven't had rain so far this event, not in the 5-lap sprint race to determine the grid in Brazil, not in the actual race in Brazil, and not in China either. So maybe, just maybe, Japan will throw a little bit of a spanner in the works and will chuck it down with some rain. Or it will stay dry, as everything we've seen so far today. Anything can happen. The weather is set to dynamic, so it can actually rain. And I would love to see that. Rain in Japan. Japan always makes for great racing. I've commentated a race around Japan for another league, I think a week or 2 ago. And every single time I do commentate a race around Japan on any F1 game, not just 2020, but previous ones as well, the races just get absolutely crazy. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same thing happen here tonight. And when I say crazy, those of you that watched Imola earlier today, you know exactly what I mean when I say crazy.
Absolutely, yeah. If we get anything on that level of crazy, that would be very exciting, but my vocal cords wouldn't thank them for it. But nevertheless, I'd still take it for sure. I think my ideal situation here is we get a nice sprinkling of rain in the qualifying to really test the drivers, get them at their maximum, give them the biggest challenge we can possibly give them. And then into the race, have it maybe start intermediates and quickly dry up, because I do like to see a dry race in general. It tends to give you better racing, DRS being available, all this sort of thing. And sometimes in the wet conditions, you really can struggle in the dirty air of the car ahead. But that being said, it's still always great fun, pretty much no matter what, to see a race in wet conditions.
It certainly is, and you are right about the wet conditions not making for as good racing on the game, when I think the opposite is quite true in real life, but on the game, wet weather doesn't make for as good racing. But what you described is probably the best case scenario, that we do get like a wet to dry race, and then, a little bit of rain, light rain in qualifying, Maybe even a wet to dry qualifying. That could make for some interesting scenarios where the rain really only stops with like 3-4 minutes left to go, and then the drivers have to make a choice. Do they go for dry tires for their last qualifying run, or do they stay on intermediates and try and qualify on those?
Indeed. And now a couple of the substitute drivers who have come in for this race, just to keep you a little bit abreast of what's going on. So the World X team have got now Fitz joining. That is more commonly known as Yari, I believe, and he will be in the second Mercedes seat alongside Neuberger, who we saw in China. And the Chinese team have remained the same. We are going to be seeing another new driver in the form, well, a returning driver in the form of Tom Martinez, who will be back for Team UK in this one, I believe, alongside Dylan Warren, unless maybe Dylan Warren having those internet issues, we might see someone else coming in for him instead. And the rest of them, it looks like most people are going to be pretty much people we've seen before. Both Naumann and Hausmann are going to be back. We saw for the German team, we saw them, of course, in the first race in Brazil. They stood aside in China, but they're back here in Japan once again.
Yeah, I think this is going to be incredibly interesting once again, with 5 teams still battling over that one spot that will qualify them for the main competition starting in 2 weeks' time. We're going to have action here on the ORL channel and, of course, the Future Esports channel. We're going to be alternating for the next 7 weeks from now on until 7 weeks. So for 8 events ultimately, 2 qualifiers, 6 main events, and it's gonna be absolutely manic. It's going to be crazy, and ultimately there will be one nation crowned as the fastest nation on F1 2020.
Yeah, and why don't we think about that for a moment, actually? I mean, regardless of who's competing, what nation do you think has the biggest crop, maybe, of really high-tier F1 drivers? Because one thing I have always noticed, and I know we got a lot of Hungarian fans in chat, and I promise you I'm not just pandering to them, there's a lot of Hungarians that tend to be there or thereabouts, I've noticed. Of course, Danny Berezsny being the big cheese in that regard, right? But there's so many other drivers. You've got the likes of Norbert Jakob, who's around at the moment. We've got Bolash Kevin, who's not driving here today. Both Bial and Boda have been doing a great job here today as well. Ben Sabo Konyi, another driver that jumps out in the mind when you think about Hungarians. So they do have quite a decent level of competition up here at the top. Are there any other nations that really stand out to you in league racing?
I mean, Hungary is certainly one of them. It's quite surprising to see a country that's, I mean, rather small ultimately, and didn't have that many real-life F1 drivers. Joel Baumgartner really is the one that comes to mind for me. For them to have that massive success and be that high up with that many different drivers is quite fascinating to see. Another team I'm looking at, thinking about it, I would say the Netherlands. I mean, Jan Opmeer being the current F1 esports drivers champion, certainly standing out in that regard. I think Italy is a team. David Tunidza, a former F1 esports drivers champion. And who else do we have? Manuel Biancolia is there. I'm thinking of some other. The names escape me. I'm too old to remember names, you know.
Yeah, Daniele Haddad would be another Italian.
Oh yeah,
maybe
definitely, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. I think those are some of the nations that have the best representation at the very top level of F1 esports and of F1 league racing at the moment. You can see the standings are now being posted in chat if you guys want to get an idea of where everybody is. It is currently Finland and Hungary joint at the top with 50 points apiece. Spain only 2 points behind in third. Then you've got the UK and Turkey after each of them had a pretty disappointing second round. UK through no fault of their own, and Turkey just could have mired in the pack in the end. They're in 4th and 5th with 39 and 36 points respectively. And then you get down to the teams that don't really have so much of an opportunity to win this going forward, but can still look to get as many points from this final round as possible. Germany, who had a great second round after a poor opener in Brazil. Then World X, who had connection issues for Felipe Sousa, and then Neuberger had faded later on in that race in China as well. And then Russia, China, and Belgium still currently sitting on 0.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, 5 teams basically still in. Germany have caught up a little bit. World X struggling a little bit more now, but I think it might be too far for Germany. They would need really both of their drivers here, Naumann and Hausmann coming back, who were participating in the first race. They would need them to really get a super strong result. We're talking the likes of P1 and P2, because all the other teams are still scoring, most likely, because we have 15 cars in the points, and as such, 7.5 teams could have, or 7 teams could have both their drivers score points, and certainly the ones at the top tend to do exactly that. So it's going to be interesting. Finland, by the way, in terms of tiebreaker, the reason why Finland is leading over Hungary is because the Finns have won the second race, whereas the Hungarians have not had a win. But overall, very, very strong performances. And so it will all come down to the wire. 18 minutes of qualifying and a 13 or 14 lap race. We'll see around Suzuka with the mighty Ferris wheel in the background.
Indeed, always a very iconic shot here of Suzuka with that Ferris wheel. Not many other tracks boast a Ferris wheel in the nearby vicinity, that is for sure. But yeah, no, it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm seeing a couple of people in chat, Felix Neuberger in chat there, Ghetto, and of course, one thing that we didn't really pick up on at the time is that he actually got majorly held in the pit lane in that last race, which is why he was running sort of 5th, 6th for a while and then dropped down to sort of 10th, 11th by the time of the checkered flag. So had some issues with that one. And unfortunate for him that he's looking pretty bullish about his chances going into this qualifying session here in Japan.
Yeah, he's saying 24.5 is what he is aiming for. And he says, just one word there, watch. So we are going to watch, I can tell you that much. We are definitely going to watch and see if he can keep up with that expectation he set himself, really, as the first driver's already going out. There's a lot of drivers actually going out very early here. Atte Kaupinen is the first one. Let's actually get the game footage on the screen as well. There we go. So Atte Kaupinen being the first one here, and many, many drivers going out for their first run already.
Absolutely, yeah, many drivers. So be interesting to see. It's very interesting to see so many drivers going out at the very beginning of this qualifying session, and all of them on soft tires, bar one, and that is Tom Martinez returning after managing 14th place, in the opening race in Brazil. Sat out for China, but is back for Team UK here. He's going out on mediums, whereas everyone else is on soft tires.
Yeah, surprising change there. A little bit different, but I think it's really just that he wants to save as many soft tire sets as possible for later runs. He doesn't want to waste a soft tire set this early on in the qualifying when he can easily just choose a medium set of tires. And so it definitely makes sense. This early on, you use a set of tires that you don't want to use either for your best run or in the race. You just get rid of it. You say, okay, this one will be done for after this. And Martinez doing exactly that here. I'm surprised no driver has gone out on intermediates. We've seen that, I've seen that a couple times in league racing before, and I've done it as well in league racing before, in dry conditions on intermediates to just save a tire. But this track might be too long, where drivers really only get 4 runs maximum, and so they don't need to save any tires, and they don't need to go out on intermediates to just get out on track and get a little bit familiar with the car. You obviously need to do that every single time you go out. You need to familiarize yourself again. You need to go, okay, this is how everything goes. This is how the car feels every single time. And it only takes a couple seconds for these drivers. But the more you get into a rhythm, into a flow, the better it is ultimately. And that's one reason, apart from obviously track evolution, which is going to be massive here as well, why we see laps get better and better throughout a session. And so the best times will be set at the end but a good banker lap goes a long way. It makes your life a lot easier here as we get some slipstreaming between the Finns, Kaupinen and now Karinen. So we see the team games come out early.
Yeah, it's a team tournament, so you're going to want to pull out these tricks if you can. And what a circuit to do it at as well. That back straight all the way through 130R. Huge slipstream for Atte Kaupinen. He manages a mid-25, a 125.561 to start off proceedings. 4 tenths clear or thereabouts of Tian Yu Tang, and Hausmann goes and takes the top spot. Julian Hausmann there. Oh, no, sorry, Chris Hausmann. It's Julian Neumann and Chris Hausmann. Sorry, similar names for the two Germans here in this one. But it is Chris Hausmann at the very top for now. Pablo Hoglar are going to be disappointed with that one, down in 4th and last of the guys who have set lap times thus far. As now Naumann, that is Julian Naumann, goes into 4th. Dylan Warren going up to the very top of the order in the Racing Point. As Yildirim slotting in just behind. Very, very close stuff between those two. And that was Boda coming across the line just now. Now I think Tom Martinez, no, he's not going to be next across the line because he is back in the pit lane. Maybe Neuberger coming up to the line now. Let's see where he goes. Up into 2nd for him, slotting himself in the infinitesimally small gap between Warren and Uz Yildirim there with that Mercedes. So good start for World X and for UK as well. Very important for UK to have a very good one here in Japan.
Now, meanwhile, Yuan has aborted his lap. And if we quickly look at the tires, Bethel has invalidated. Bial and now Karinen, the only 2 out on a lap right now, and they do the same thing again. The Finns with Kaupinen and now Karinen, only this time it's the other way around. Now Karinen gets the slipstream all the way down through 130R into the Cassia Triangle, and now across the line. Will it be a new P1? It will by 3/10 of a second. What a lap from Tino now Karinen here. We look at Bial now in 13th as he does the same with his teammate Boda here. They are working together as well. I think that is the way to go. Tino Nakarinen's time shows exactly that. You need to get that slipstream and then get out of the way at the last moment. Boda really leaving it late there. And ultimately that means all the drivers will really only get about, what, 3 runs here? As Bial goes up to P5 right behind Oz Yildirim right now. The first strike has been struck and the Finns are the one to land the blow. P1 and P7 for them. Fantastic situation.
Yeah, the Finns and the Hungarians, the two teams at the very top with the Spaniards in close contention. But with Pablo Hoglar really disappointing down there in 11th for the time being, slowest of anyone to have set a lap time, the only driver in the 26s, compared to now Karinen, clear at the top with a 125.138, 3/10 clear of Dylan Warren in 2nd. And I looked at the sector times for now Karinen as well, and usually when you see a big gap between 2 cars, it's usually a lot of it's all in one sector. They nailed a certain corner, but now Karinen, it's a 10th per sector. And that just shows that it's just a little bit of a cut above right now, every part of the track compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, it really, that's quite a surprising thing to get consistently a 10th here, a 10th there. And it's something you don't see very often. Surprisingly, especially, is it a 10th in the final sector as well?
Yeah, it's only a 10th in the final sector. And that's what I was thinking. Because of the slipstream, I thought, well, maybe he's gained 3/10 in that final sector and everywhere else was basically even. But no, it's just all around the lap, Tino Nakarinenen. So becoming a bit of a master of Suzuka, apparently. Chanakinchi and Ruben Vallejo are currently on flying laps. So is Napadovsky and Burton there. Chanakinchi's purple through Sector 1, though the track map can sometimes lie to you on that one, so I'm just going to double check that. No, it's a very fast Sector 1 time for Chanakinchi, so I think that one is honest, and the Turk is on a very good lap thus far.
Yeah, certainly, and the one thing that does surprise me is the final, because the final sector really only starts after 130R. All of the final sector is the Cassia Triangle and the run to the line. Other than that, there is nothing. That's the whole 3rd sector. And so I'm surprised that he gained a whole 10th in that short of a sector. But, well, apparently Tino Nakarinenen really absolutely got the Cassia Triangle right, as Akinci really did not. Massive slide there through the Cassia Triangle, and it is still P2. So considering how sideways he was there, I think that was a fantastic lap still.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, he was 2.5 tenths off of Naukarinen in the final sector alone. So Akinci would have been right up there with Naukarinen had that lap not gone awry at the very end there with a big moment in the penultimate part of the Casio Triangle. But let's see, Houseman's also out on a flying lap now. He's just started. Someone just moved up the order. That's Napadovsky going up into 9th. Vallejo had to back out of his lap, back into the pits for him. So it's a really rough start to this qualifying session for Team Spain. Fitz, the new driver for World X, he's invalidated his lap. Svetkov is pushing out here for the Russians in the Williams. He's halfway around his lap right now. Once again, connection issues strike for Dylan Warren, and that's going to be a big worry for Team UK. They went with Warren rather than Welch into this one, and they might be regretting that if Warren's internet continues to go awry.
Yeah, meanwhile, I was looking at Tom Martinez here, Warren's teammate, and he must have invalidated his lap, it seems, because he did not set a lap time there, as Tsvetkov now goes up to P9. We're looking at Yuan. He goes up to P10 just behind Svetkov and in between both of the Russians there. Bethel is in the first sector. Who else is looking to improve? Pablo Hoglar, P15 right now. Oh, there's a Ferrari off in the gravel. That's one of the Turkish drivers. Don't know who that was, but it certainly was one of the Turkish drivers. Hoglar up to P7. Just misses out of P6 by 5 milliseconds there on Bial, just behind him there. Who else are we looking at? Houseman in P2 just set a lap time there. Very, very strong lap from him. Neuberger's running out of spoon. Oz Yildirim was strong. Oh yeah, Oz Yildirim is coming towards the line here through the Casio Triangle. Can he beat his teammate Akinci? Can he even get higher than that? Across the line, doesn't take the narrow run and does not improve ultimately. Neuberger has aborted his lap. Oh, no, never mind. He hasn't. That was a slight mistake. That was Warren in the pit lane. Neuberg up to P4. 4 drivers now within just over a 1/10 of a second.
Look at the Finns. Now Karinen first. Atte Kauppinen just moved up into 3rd as well. And now Karinen hasn't even had his second run at it yet. So he could even go more clear at the top right now compared to the rest of this field. The Hungarians aren't managing to match the Finns in this one thus far. Boda, on his second attempt, has only managed to go P7, just ahead of Yildirim there. And meanwhile, the Spaniards still really struggling. Hoglar down into 10th already, and that's still with a few drivers yet to set their second attempt, as Svetkov invalidates in the final sector, but he's heading into the pit anyway. Yuan is heading back to the pit as well. Julian Naumann is on a flying lap, and he's getting a nice slipstream from Houseman there. The two Germans working together in those Red Bulls, cutting significantly in the Casio Triangle, but not so much that he picks up an invalidation. Here comes Naumann up towards the line. It's only good enough for 7th. That's a decent result for Team Germany. 2nd and 7th for now, only really being beaten out on average lap time by the Finns.
Yeah, they're doing a good job, but ultimately the Finns are the ones leading the event right now, and with only 1 race to go, I was going to say it takes for the Germans to have any kind of chance, not only a sort of 1-2 result, but it would also take some misfortune for some of the other teams. And right now, the one team that doesn't seem to have any kind of misfortune as now Karinen improves to a 25-0 here. The one team that really does not have any misfortune whatsoever are the Finns, so it's going to be difficult to overcome that. Only the top 1 team here tonight will qualify for the main competition for the Nations Cup.
Yeah, and Bial's just come across the line for Hungary to go into 5th, and that is not really enough. It's a good lap time. It's only 2/10 away from what is currently provisional pole, but it's not enough right now. With the Finns starting 1st and 3rd, Bial and Boda need to dig deep to keep themselves in contention with those Finns. They're even on points going into this one, and even worse news is for the Spaniards, who are currently 2 points behind both of those teams, and Vallejo is still yet to set a lap time. He's coming through the final corner now. Let's see where this is going to put him. Oh, and it's up in the second, 2,000 ahead of Chris Houseman there in 3rd. Ruben Vallejo starting to fly the flag for Spain once again, but with Hoglar down in 12th, and now Karinen still ahead of him. It's still not looking too great for the Iberian team. The Finns still very much in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's certainly some slither of hope there for the Spaniards. If only Pablo Hoglar can improve. He's down in 12th right now, and he's in the pit lane as well. 5 minutes left as we get the standings in the chat once again. Finland on 50, tied with Hungary. Tiebreaker is that Finland won the second race, and as such, they have the tiebreaker lead, the count bag lead over Hungary. But you gotta say, the Spaniards really close as well, only 2 points behind. So anything can happen, but they need to move Pablo Joglar up from 13th place into a higher position. Here goes Akinji. No, back into the pit lane he goes. Fitz went up to 4th. Out of nowhere, World X doing a good job here. They're almost out of contention, really. But, I mean, they're showing that they are not to be trifled with. Napadovsky for the Russians. Can he improve? If so, by how much? Through the final chicane, the final sector, and onto the line. There's a Renault going slow into the pit lane, and Napadovsky aborts.
Napadovsky aborts, that is true, and I think it's only Martinez, Tom Martinez, more commonly known as Tom 97, for Team UK, currently yet to set a lap time. He's the only one out there pushing on a flying lap right now. Fitz going up there into 4th for World X. What could have been for that team if they hadn't had so many misfortunes in China? They could be looking at a very, very solid charge to the line here in Japan. And oh, Tom Martinez with the early turn into the first part of the Casio Triangle invalidates. And he'll have to go straight back into the pit lane. Only 3.5 minutes left in this qualifying session. It's really coming down to the wire. And if UK are to have any hope, Tom Martinez needs to at least get a lap time on the board.
Yeah, certainly, and it's going to come down to one run, which is really not what you want. This is why drivers set banker laps early on, because it relieves a little bit of pressure. You always have something to fall down upon if that final run does not materialize, as Dylan Warren has left the session once again. Oh, wow, that was the quickest rejoin I've ever seen.
Well, that's good news, at least for him.
It is.
For Team UK as well. Boda has just started a flying lap. This is going to be probably his final flying lap of the session. And the trouble is, a lot of cars just came piling out of the pit, so he's going to have traffic here in the first sector, and that's not going to help him. Let's see, is Svetkov going to get nice and out of the way for the Hungarian? There's another car going off. I think that was Napadovsky. Both Russians do manage to part and let Boda through. There was a lot of distraction there in the S section for the Hungarian in that bright orange McLaren, and that will not have helped his lap time through that one. A 31.4, you can see 0.6 of a second down. He's backed out of this one entirely. I think Hausmann was the next one to be on a flying lap there, just behind him for the German team. Currently sitting in 3rd, one of our contenders for pole, you would have to imagine, as he's already into sector 2. And let's see how the rest of this lap's going to go for him. Big moment there, actually, out of the hairpin. That will not help.
Yeah, he's heading towards Spoon now, and this is such a long run that you don't want to make a mistake out of Spoon, out of the hairpin rather, because it's such a long run. If you make a mistake, then no slipstream off his teammate either. He goes straight past him. They have messed up the slipstream.
I think he's backed out of the lap entirely, actually, and now at the Kalpanen as well. He has invalidated his attempt through Dunlop Curve. So a lot of people falling by the wayside right now. Ulash Ozyildirim currently sitting in 12th, the Turk. What can he do? He's on a flying lap right now, and it looks like he's going to get some slipstream. Not so much slipstream, just a hint from his teammate Chanakinchi here. His lap time's looking decent to get inside the top 10. I don't think he's going to be challenging for pole with this one. Vettel just ahead. The Belgian in the braking zone there for the Casio Triangle. Might have put off Ozyildirim just a little bit. I don't think Vettel blocked him in any way, though, and up towards the line he goes. It's good enough for 4th. Very decent lap time for Ozyildirim, but there's plenty of time for many drivers to improve and to try and get ahead of him instead. Julian Naumann, one of those drivers. He is in the first sector, though. I'm trying to see who's going to be next across the line. There's a Renault coming up. That's going to be one of the Spaniards. It's going to be Vallejo starting his flying lap. And many drivers backing up in the final sector now. That's going to be tough for anyone who is on a flying lap.
Yeah, meanwhile, Atakapanen came across the line. No improvement there. I'm looking at Pablo Joglar now. He is also not looking to improve, it seems, or is he? No, he's going really slow. So he's just trying to help his teammates. So this is really for all teams. They seem to bank on their one driver who is ahead right now. Kaupinen did not improve and is now trying to give slipstream to now Karinen here on the back straight. We have I think the Turks might be working together as well, Akinji and Oz Yildirim, but they're working together for Akinji, so they're looking to get a good team result here. Where is Oz Yildirim? Oz Yildirim right in front, and look at that. Beautiful slipstreaming here from Oz Yildirim for Akinji. And yeah, we're gonna see how much of a difference that makes for Akinji as he lets him by. Akinji through the Casio triangle. Bial stays in P8. Houseman goes into the pit lane. Will stay in P3 or move down further. What can Akinji do across the line? It is P2.
Oh, lovely improvement there. 3/10 for Chanakinchi, puts him up in a second, but it's not over yet. Vallejo's in the wall. The Spaniard with the best chance for Spain for pole position. He's in the wall in the Casio triangle, and he will not be able to set another lap time. Down there in third. He's got to be careful that he doesn't block any other drivers. That's Tino Nakarinen coming through. He is able to improve even further into the 24s. We go for him. Felix Neuberger comes across the line. That would have been a 1:25.1, but it was invalidated. And now Pablo Hoglar stealing 10th at the very end for Spain. That's some consolation. It's just Tom Martinez all of a sudden. Coming up towards the line, he's fighting the car all the way. And across the line to claim 14th for Team UK, 11th and 14th for them. And that is not looking good for qualification.
Yeah, this is going to be a struggle for Team UK. They might not make it here. For the most historic nation in pretty much all of racing, that would be a huge blow here, as the Finns are looking incredibly strong right now with Tino Naukarinen getting pole position and Atte Kaupinen in P7. We have the Turks being incredibly strong, but they're 14 points behind in the live standings. Akinji second, Oz Yildirim fifth. The Spaniards very all over the place. Vallejo third. That's a good result, but Pablo Hoglar down in 10th, and they are 2 points behind the Finns already. The Germans, Hausmann 4th, Naumann 12th. For them also a little bit all over the place there, but they are pretty much out of contention, being already 23 points behind the Finns. And then Hungary, sort of the fan favorites if we're looking at chat, one of the fan favorites, only down in P9 and P13 with Bial and Boda, so they have a lot to do here in the race. However, we've seen with both Bial and Boda, they're really good on strategy, and they're really good at overtaking. So the two things that you need to move up the field in the race, they have that. So I am looking at those two as maybe a bit of a surprise in the race, and I wouldn't count them out. But right now, both Hungarians behind both the Finns. That is going to be difficult.
It is going to be difficult. It looks like the Turks are going to be the ones to bring the challenge to the Finns, if anything, right now, with Akinci and Oz Yildirim in second and fifth. And they were the only team, I'm pretty sure the only team, who managed to get 2 proper flying laps in at the end of that session. The slipstreaming, invalidations, a crash for Vallejo, some people just not improving enough, meant that a lot of drivers weren't able to improve at the very end of that session. But both Turks were able to get the most out of the track when it was at its fastest. And as a result, they have reaped the benefits with second and fifth on the grid. So that's great news for them. And let's also look, the top 18 drivers within 0.7 of a second of each other there, with only the 2 Belgians in 19th and 20th further away. So that shows just how close this whole field is. But definitely it is still looking in Finland's way right now.
Yeah, meanwhile, the reason we had such a long break there in between, as you saw, was because Dylan Warren was holding things up again. His connection does not seem to play around. It's really struggling, it seems, today, and is making him struggle as well. He has since rejoined and will be able to take control of his car. But yeah, he might not be able to change the strategy of what tire he starts on, because he did rejoin after the countdown, and as the drivers are loading into the session, so he might not be able to choose the starting tire, as it is clear as day here in Suzuka. And for some reason, I can't hear you right now. Okay, we'll just continue. As the drivers are loading in now. All the drivers on the grid, and we are getting underway. There we go.
Sorry about that. Just a little issue on my end, but that's all sorted now. But yeah, very, very clear day here in Suzuka, so we're not going to get any of that rain we were hoping for. Not a single, hardly a single cloud in the sky. Just a couple of birds flying around up there, actually. As Tino Naukarinen leads them around for the formation lap here in Japan. And let's look at the tyres real quick. Only 2 outside of the top 10 opting for those softs, and that's going to be Dylan Warren, who might not have even had a say in the matter. And Napadovsky down in 17th, also going for soft tyres. Everyone else outside the top 10 opting for the mediums instead.
Yeah, and if I saw correctly, Napadovsky had also left the session. In fact, he might not be in control of his car. I'm going to have to...
I did see someone in chat saying that Napadovsky was having some wheel issues, so that might be the case. That Napadovsky has just have to left the session just because his wheel isn't working.
Yeah.
Dylan Warren still isn't in control of his car on this formation lap either, and it's actually fallen behind several of the other cars. So hopefully that can sort itself out. But never mind that for now, because it's the battle at the front that we really care about. We got the Finns, the Turks, the Spaniards, all up there at the very top, and all in with a shout. Hungarians starting in 9th and 13th. Not a good qualifying for them. They're still there in terms of point standings, and if the race goes head over heels, then maybe they can find the points they need to beat out the Finns. They are definitely the team to beat right now. The Turks, 14 points behind. The Spaniards, 2 points behind, but with Hoglar starting down in 10th. It will be about this start and who's going to be leading once we get through the first corner.
Yeah, this could really shape the race if Akinji or Vallejo are somehow able to get past Naukarinen here on the start and into turn 1. This could really change things drastically, because now Naukarinen will find himself in a battle that will last probably at least until the pit stops, if not longer. And even then, it might not be over until the very end. He might even fall down further. You know, there might be some close pack racing here, and this is really going to change in turns 1 and 2 here in Japan. They're tricky at the best of times. In turn 1, lap 1, they can be very, very difficult.
Indeed. Are you guys all ready? Because I know that I am. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we'll get off the start line here, as the lights are going on for the drivers. All 5 are on and all 5 are gone. And we're underway here in Suzuka for the 3rd time here in the Nations Cup. And Akinci already under pressure from Vallejo, but Naukarinen's had a very clean start. That's Vallejo clean around the outside of the Ferrari. That's Turk going to fight back, but he cannot do so. And that is Vallejo up in the second there as one of the UK drivers off in the background. I think that's Dylan Warren, who got pushed wide through turn 1. Neuberger and Biala battling. And that is Özildirim, who's struggling there in the Ferrari. He's just about managed to avoid contact. He's fallen down a couple of positions. That is not what Team Turkey needed. And they need to try and overhaul a 14-point deficit to the Finns. Akinci loses 1 spot as Yildirim loses 2. That is a disaster of a start for the Ferrari boys. They've got plenty of time to try and fight back their way up through the field once again. It is now Karinen leading from Vallejo in 2nd, Akinci in 3rd.
Yeah, the one thing that does help them a little bit is that the Finns are also struggling. Atte Kaupinen down into 9th. And now Karinen's still in the lead. He's trying to pull away here. Vallejo, however, is going to try and reel him in and not let him escape.
Oda's off, and it's Yuan as well. There's been a huge incident between the two of them. They've both gone absolutely careening through Spoon the wrong way. And they're both down to the back of the order. Boda, the Hungarian, needed to score big points. And he's been caught up with the Chinese driver, Yuan. And as a result, he is down at the very bottom. Neuberger outbreaks himself there under pressure from his teammate Fitz. And Fitz moves past him up into 5th. Neuberger down into 6th. And now Özildirim's looking to take advantage of that one as well. That's a disaster for Team Hungary. Bial now solely flying the flag for them.
Yeah, I think at this point it's not going to be Hungary. That is a competition-ending disaster here, really, for the Hungarian team. Bial is putting Özildirim under a lot of pressure here through the S's, but it's difficult to overtake here at the best of times. Outright impossible, really. And he stays in P... oh, the timing tower is going completely crazy. I'm pretty sure in P8. For now, but everything's sorting itself, waiting for Boda, who should come across the first sector line. in a few seconds, and then we have everything back correctly. But yeah, BL in P8, it shows 9, but again, Boda will fall down. Apologies for these glitches. We are not in charge of them. We're not in control of them. Nothing we can do about it. But there we go. Everything is corrected now, except the lap counter. It is lap 2, not 3. And BL still behind us, Yildirim, and the gap has increased a little bit.
Finland, from Spain, from Turkey, from Germany, from World X making up the top 6 right now. And that is now Karinen leading the way from Ruben Vallejo in second. They have been 2 of the star drivers here today. Chanakinchi's always been there or thereabouts in terms of pace at least. After he started from the very back of the grid in the opening race, it's been an uphill battle for him and for Team Turkey. Meanwhile, that's Hoglar into the pits there to get rid of a set of soft tyres. I think that is just a strategic decision. That's very much mistaken. No front wing damage. The Renault boys getting back out of the pits. Yuan speeds into the pit lane there as he's getting rid of his soft tyres. Warren once again not in control of that racing point.
Yeah, he has left the session again, and I think at this point he might be close to just completely giving up on his connection, just like his connection so many times tonight gave up on him. It's just so unlucky because Team UK had a real chance of qualifying here, but Dylan Warren's connection had other ideas, and ultimately that might be the main reason why they do not qualify. As we see, not much battling going on right now. Everyone really close, but no one trying to overtake here. As no gaps are being formed, really. The closest one we have, or the farthest one we have here, where we might see some DRS overtakes, is right behind Naumann in 10th. So Tom Martinez, but he's almost a second away. So he will have DRS to defend off of Tsvetkov. But he will not be close enough to put Naumann under pressure. Maybe Oz Yildirim in 7th as Neuberger goes into the pit lane. So that is a position for Oz Yildirim, at least for now. And one thing to note as well for the pit stops, drivers lose around 20.5 seconds in the pit lane here at Japan. So if we quickly set that to leader, nothing shows up, so we're gonna have to keep it on interval to at least get something here. Apologies for that, but I think that's because Dylan Warren is back in his car at least, so that's good news for him as he's in P11 right now. Let's hope he can stay in the car for the remaining 10 laps of this race.
Yu Tang just set the fastest lap of the race down in 18th for Team China there after he has come into the pits for a fresh set of soft tyres a lap or 2 ago. Atte Kauppinen followed Pablo Hoglar into the pit there as well as Felix Neuberger, so they are all now on fresh medium tyres in 15th, 16th and 17th. But Atte Kauppinen rolling the dice early to go onto these mediums. It's a daring strategy for Team Finland and they need to maximise their points all. Let's not forget, Valentino now Karinen may win. If it's a 2nd and a 3rd or something like that for Team Turkey, they might be able to overhaul that. Spain also very much looking interested, especially now with Hoglar ahead of Atte Kauppinen. They can build a few more positions to Atte Kauppinen and Vallejo stays in 2nd. The Spaniards might still be looking at qualifying directly through in this one. Now Karinen now pitting a lap after his teammate Akinci follows him in fits as well. Vallejo critically staying out there on his soft tyres.
Yeah, we see here Vallejo really making good use of this tyre as well. He's now in completely clean air, and that should do him a little bit well. While, if we look at now Karinen,
here they went side by side into the Casio triangle, and there was a bit of contact between the two of them. I'm sure they know the stakes in the battle between Spain and Finland right now. And it hasn't cost Atte Kauppinen so much time that he falls behind Naumann and Biebel when they come out of the pit, so that's good news for him. But Neuberger and Fitz both out ahead of Hoglar and Atte Kauppinen, despite the attempted undercut.
Yeah, as Vallejo is still leading the way and far away from Hausmann, over a 2.5 seconds there. The only battle I can see right now, the highest battle at least, not the only, but the highest battle is between Martinez, Tsvetkov and Warren, P5, P6, P7, as I think Dylan Warren is back in control of his number 66 racing point here for Team UK. So that might heat up a little bit. Can Tsvetkov mount a challenge here against the 2 racing points? One he's in front of, but one he is behind. So it's going to be difficult to get out of that racing point. Sandwich is the top 2 and now pitting. And actually make that the top 4, make that the top 6. And Warren cannot pit because his teammate pits right in front of him. So he has to stay out, forced, because he can't afford a double stack. That would lose him way too much time. So he has to stay out on these soft tires for one more lap.
Yeah, he's going to have to hope that those medium tires, the freshness of those at the very end of the race, will pay off dividends for him. There's Houseman coming out of the pits just behind Chan Akinci. Meanwhile, Vallejo has been able to lead Tino Nalkarinen by the overcut there. The Spaniard moves up into the lead of this race, and that has enormous implications because right now, if things finished as they are once Thuyten and Warren come into the pit, the Spanish will take the win here. Team Spain moving ahead of Team Finland, but only just right now. Hoglar is directly ahead of Atte Kauppinen on track. Vallejo is directly ahead of Nalkarinen. These are direct battles between Spain and Finland right now, and it's looking like a direct head-to-head in 2 parts of the track.
Yeah, and that means that any change would go in the Finns' favor. Any switch in positions between a Spaniard and a Finn would immediately put the Finns back ahead, because right now the Spaniards would only win by 1 point. If one of these switch, all of a sudden the Finns would either win by 1 point if it's the battle between Hoglar and Kauppinen, or by even 3 points if Nalkarinen overtakes Vallejo here. So either way, they need to keep those positions, both of them. They can't afford a single change, and they need to do it for 6 more laps.
Yeah, already the laps ticking down here. We're about to enter lap 8, I think, or sorry, lap 7 of 13 here in Suzuka. As there is Nalkarinen getting close to Vallejo towards turn 1. You can see how close it is between the 2 of them, and they will know right now. They'll know the situation with their teammates, but they will know that this is the single most important thing happening on track. They are the focal point. The attention is on them, and the pressure is on them as well. Both sitting similarly in terms of ERS percentage, which in a straight battle can mean a huge amount. In the F1 game, Pablo Hoglar getting past the ghosted card of Napadovsky down there for 10th, and Atte Kauppinen will be following him through there, so not really any significant change. Hoglar, though, falling away from the DRS of Bial up ahead. That's bad news for him. He's down at 13% ERS charge as well, but Atte Kauppinen has been using a lot in that battle, so both of them very low, and that might cause them to fall further away from the cars ahead, which might give Atte Kauppinen a sniff, now that Hoglar won't have DRS on Bial.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm looking at the situation between Spain and Finland again, because we had the pit stop for, I think it was Bial. Things have changed a little bit, because now Spain would actually win by 2 points, which means if Hoglar and Kauppinen now switch positions, both teams would be tied, and I think the Spaniards would win. And even more so if once Dylan Warren pits. He hasn't pitted yet. So once he does, at that point, they could afford to lose.
Now Karina's going around the outside of turn 1. Sorry to cut you off there. He's going for the lead against Vallejo, and he takes it away. You were about to say that if Vallejo was going to win, that was going to give the tiebreaker certainly over to the Spaniards. But now Karinen is the one in charge at the very front. Vallejo, surely he'll know that was coming, and he'll know that it's on him to try and get that position straight back from Nalkarinen. And Tino himself is going to try and gap the Spaniard now. Over the course of this next lap, Tino has used a significant amount more overtake to try and get past Vallejo, so he's going to have to recuperate some of that as well. Vallejo should be able to stick within DRS range of him and maybe look to get him back. Atte Kauppinen, a 3-second time penalty. That could be a disaster for him. There's a train of cars right behind. Tang, Naumann is at least going to lose out to both of those as things stand, but he's looking to get past Pablo Hoglar here on the exit of turn 12. The Finns and the Spaniards, they're battling all over the place. Hoglar trying to get him back on their way up towards Spoon Curve. He'll have the outside line. He switches across the track to the inside instead. Atte Kauppinen has to let him go once again, but he'll have the slipstream all the way down through this part of Spoon Curve, and now up towards 130R they will go, and he'll want to be getting that position straight back from the Renault. That Alpha Tauri for the Finnish team getting very close to the rear wing there of the yellow and black car. On the left-hand side, the outside for the Casio Triangle. He goes so deep on the brakes, and he might just have pulled it off here. They're still going to be side by side. It's all about traction down towards turn 1 right now. Meanwhile, at the front, now Karin is still leading from Vallejo. Vallejo wasn't able to battle back. And who's back? Martinez getting it. Battling his way through. Martinez and Warren's coming out of the pits as well. Warren almost loses it. Goes into Attikalpinen, who picks up front wing damage. And Martinez gets past both of them. Hoglar, he's been able to keep it clean at least. But Dylan Warren almost lost it on the cold tyres. And Attikalpinen almost off the road there. Hoglar still involved in this fight. Still yet to pick up a penalty himself compared to the 3 seconds of Attikalpinen. But now Kalpinen has front wing damage and that penalty. This could be a disaster for Finland.
Yeah, this could change everything if Kalpinen loses positions here and Joglar gets Hoglar, sorry. That was the old pronunciation that I was used to, but of course the correct pronunciation is Hoglar. Hoglar tries it around the outside here, and Svetkov tries it down the inside, but there's not enough space. Hoglar, if he gets by and Kalpinen loses more positions, then all of a sudden the battle at the front between now Karina and Vallejo might not matter at all.
Hoglar around the outside of Spoon. He takes it in the first part, and you can see the understeer for Attikalpinen. With that damaged front wing, he's got no hope. He loses a hatful of positions there on the exit of Spoon, and he's already down and out to the points, and with a penalty to boot. It is a disaster for Attikalpinen, and things might have just fallen in Spain's favour.
Well, they haven't just yet, because right now, Finland would get 4 more points than Spain off of the now Karina Vallejo battle, but lose 5 points because Pablo Hoglar's in P11. So ultimately, Spain would score 1 more. But if you remember, they're 2 behind. They need 2. Exactly. And they might need 3. They might need 3 if now Karina wins the race. So Pablo Hoglar needs to gain at least 2 more or at least 1 more place, probably 2.
Tom Martinez there in 9th on the soft tyres. Those soft tyres are going to start to pull away before the end. And critically, he's got a 5-second penalty. All Pablo Hoglar needs to do is stick within 5 seconds of Tom Martinez, and that's going to draw Spain level with Finland. They'll have a win each. I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Finland has 2 wins. Remember, Finland won the second race, and they will win this one. So they will have 2 wins, and as such, either Vallejo gets the move on now Karinen, or Pablo Hoglar gets the position on Dylan Warren, and then on penalties on Tom Martinez as well. Those ways would both work for Spain. Either Vallejo gets it done on track. There's no doubt whatsoever Spain wins the first and the last race of this qualifier. Or Pablo Hoglar somehow gets 2 places, 1 by penalty, 1 by overtaking Dylan Warren, which doesn't look likely right now. The gap is almost 2 seconds, and Hoglar is under pressure from Svetkov, who himself has a penalty as well. But he will slow down Hoglar if he overtakes Hoglar on track. Then Svetkov will certainly slow the Renault down.
Yeah, Attikalpinen into the pits. He is officially down and out of this one now. But Hoglar might not be doing enough here. Dylan Warren, he's on much fresher medium. 6 laps is the tyre differential between Hoglar and Warren. So it's going to be very unlikely that Hoglar will be able to pull in that gap to Dylan Warren up ahead. Unless Dylan Warren has his internet issue, and there's front wing everywhere. He's off the road. Warren's off the road and out. The AI has driven him into the wall, and Hoglar is up in a 10th, and now he just needs to stick within 5 seconds of Tom Martinez, and then he gets 9th, and Spain win by 1 point. It's going to be so unbelievably close, and the fates keep twisting and turning and twisting and turning. And let's not forget Chanakinchi. He's so fast here. He's rapid in the Ferrari, and he's right there with Vallejo. Vallejo's not exactly clean home and dry in second right now, so things could still twist and turn 1 more time.
Yeah, and the question now becomes as well, will Vallejo still try to go for the win here to leave absolutely no doubt? There's always bragging rights on the line when these drivers go at it. Or will he play it safe, knowing the situation right now, knowing that Kalpinen is down in 17th and basically out of contention? He's going for it.
Here's your answer. You can see the chassis language of the car there. Vallejo definitely wants this one right now. And Now Karinen holding him off for the time being. He was close, but he wasn't close enough in towards turn 1. It doesn't look to me like Tanakinchi's going to have the pace to be involved in this one. He's using a lot more of his battery charge to stick with these guys. Vallejo has 55%. Now Karinen has 22%. Now Karinen is using more to keep the Spaniard behind. And as a result, Vallejo has the advantage. You have to imagine he can deploy so much more overtake mode over these last couple of laps, last lap and a half now. And then he should be able to find his way past Naukarinen. That's never going to be an easy operation. We know how good Tino Naukarinen is. We've seen it here today. And he's going to keep on pushing out there at the very front. He has track position, and sometimes that can be all you need. Meanwhile, Pablo Joglar, he's 3.5 seconds behind Tom Martinez. That gap is ballooning. Tom Martinez could be putting in a stint for Team Finland right now as he continues to gap Joglar. 5 seconds is the gap that he needs to keep Joglar behind. Right now, he's almost doing enough.
Yeah, it seems like Joglar is really struggling to keep Tsvetkov behind, which he doesn't even have to do because Tsvetkov himself has a penalty, so I don't know really why he's battling so hard. And he knows that Tsvetkov has a penalty, as we are now entering the final lap.
Vallejo around the outside of turn 1, he just takes it from Naukarinen. Nothing left in the tank, nothing left in the battery for Tino Naukarinen, and as a result, Ruben Vallejo moves into first place once again. Chanakinchi falling away from this top 2 battle, but with that, has Ruben Vallejo finally struck the killing blow in the war between Spain and Finland.
This almost seems like it. There's about one more chance to overtake, and it is into the Cassia Triangle through 130R. And I don't know if Naukarinen is close enough to do it. We'll go on board with him. He's running almost out of ERS. You can see the little yellow bar, the smaller yellow bar. That is how much overtake he has. The green that just turned back to orange, that is if he uses overtake. Then it's green. If it's orange, he doesn't. So right now he's on low deployment, normal deployment really. He's gonna have to use everything here, and if we look at Vallejo, he's got a lot more. Look at that. That is a massive difference. So Vallejo will hold on here and drive away. Look at this. He increases the gap over the course of the straight.
He had so much more to play with in the battery at the end. He was cannier in the battle. He held on to that battery charge. And here we go. Here is his prize for doing just that. As he comes up and takes the checkered flag to win the 3rd event here in the ORL Nations Cup. Taking it home for Spain as long as Pablo Joglar doesn't lose out too much more at the end here. Up towards the line he comes. And he takes 10th place up to 9th at the cost of Tom Martinez due to penalties. And with that, Spain have taken it over Finland. They've overhauled that 2-point deficit they had coming into this final round. Vallejo takes the win. He outraces Tino Naukarinen on the day. And Atte Kauppinen is going to be the last car to come across the line. All kinds of incidents in his race and what could have been for him if he didn't take that front wing damage in the battle with Dylan Warren.
Yeah, and it's not surprising that a nation like Spain that is so strong at the challenger level and has drivers like Danny Moreno at the esports pro series level qualifies here for the Nations Cup. What a performance ultimately. And Vallejo, he really had to take that position, otherwise it would not have been enough for them. Although actually it would have, no, it would have, because of the 9th place ultimately for Pablo Joglar. So it would have still worked out, but they made it incredibly clear now that Spain win the qualifying event in really entertaining and exciting fashion. Vallejo ahead of Naukarinen. The Finns ultimately losing out by 5 points. Akinji 3rd, Hausmann 4th. Good result there ultimately for the German in the final race there. World X, Fitz at Neuberger 5 and 6. Oz Yildirim in 7th, Bial 8, Pablo Joglar 9, Martinez 10, Boda 11, Naumann 12, Bethel 13, Tsvetka 14, Yuan 15, Atte Kauppinen, and that was the downfall of the Finns. Atte Kauppinen down in 16th. Dylan Warren, Tang, Burton, and Napadovsky out. Burton surprisingly disqualified for not using the right tire compounds when, let's quickly look, he used 2 different tire compounds. So a bit surprising at that. Same for Tsvetkov. Don't know how that happened, but ultimately it won't change the outcome of this event. It is Spain qualified for the Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming.
Absolutely, and really, really well done to them. Shout out to so many teams. So many teams were competitive here today. The Turks had a great final race as well, but they couldn't overhaul that 14-point margin. A 3rd and a 7th for Tranakinci and Ulaşos Yildirim, respectively. And shout out to Bethel as well, who got Belgium's first points here in the final race, managing a P13 to take at least a few points home for the Belgian team. So every team scored points on the day, points down to 15th, of course. Team UK faltered at the end without these connection issues that have been plaguing Dylan Warren. What could have been for them? Spain as well. It looked like they might have lost it after the incident in China for Ruben Vallejo, but he managed to bring it back here in style by taking the win in Japan and putting us beyond any doubt. Finland drove them all the way. The Germans, if they'd had a better first round, it could have gone very differently. And World X, again in China, they had issues as well. So there was so much that could have changed. The Hungarians faltered at the last here in Japan. And Boda had a great recovery drive, actually, as well, after being taken out in that incident with Yuan earlier on. But everything, positive things to say about every team here today. And this is just but a taste of what is to come here in the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. I have been Aladar, and alongside me has been Badgerman here for the first qualifier. And is there anything you'd like to say before we have to go?
Not really. All I could say is there are going to be 7 more of those events. Another qualifying event next week, and then 6 main events for the Nations Cup, and I'm looking forward to it all. We will switch around between this channel right here, the ORL channel, and of course the Future Esports channel. I hope that someone from ORL will put the link of both of them, well, not really the ORL channel because you're on it right now, but the Future Esports channel into the chat right now. So go over and subscribe to them as well as to this channel if you are here for the first time. And I think with that, we are going to leave you for tonight. We'll see you next week for the second qualifier for the ORL F1 Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming.
Viva España. All right, welcome back, everyone. Sorry about that. We forgot we had to do a few interviews here, and of course, we'd love to hear from the drivers. So we're going to bring you these interviews. Here we go, and we're going to start here with Pablo Hoglar, as he is in a bit of a rush. So first of all, Pablo, congratulations to Spain on that one. It looked a bit hairy in that final race. How was it from your perspective?
Well, thank you. And yeah, it was a chaotic race, probably the most intense race I have ever done. I had numerous touches with Ate. We probably is going to be investigated, so we'll see. But yeah, I think I did nothing wrong. But yeah, it was very hard battling, and yeah, I was battling with Ate and Ruben with Tino, so it was a very tense final round because we were the two teams along with Hungary in contention. So yeah, I'm quite happy. I think I will not be sanctioned, but I will not speak because then it's going to be the opposite. But yeah, it was a very good race, and I think I did all I had to do, and I'm very happy.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, thinking about these three tracks, I mean, decent performances at all tracks, I felt like, from your end of things. Were there any performances you're particularly happy or unhappy with over the day?
You mean if I'm happy with the other races?
With how you did, with your own performance in these races.
Yeah. I think I did pretty well. In Brazil, I maximized the points and Ruben won. So we started pretty well, and that helps starting well to build the momentum. And then in China, I think I saved a bit the team. Ruben won 2 races, but in China, I had to do the job myself because Ruben had a touching with, I think, one of the Chinese drivers. So that was pretty key that I finished P5, which was a very good result in China. And I also got held in a pit. So yeah, I think I did almost perfect throughout the 3 rounds, and I have nothing to regret, to be honest. Probably, obviously, the last round was very aggressive fighting, but I think it was both ways between me and Ate and on other guys as well, because it was chaotic between a lot of guys there. So yeah, I'm happy with my performance.
Indeed, as you should be, as it turned out to be enough for Spain. So congratulations once again on that, and we will let you go as you're in a bit of a rush. So thank you very much for talking to us, Pablo, and congratulations.
Thank you, bye.
So I think now we can maybe move on to Pablo's teammate in the form of Ruben Vallejo. Or Vallejo, is that how's that pronunciation for a start?
Yeah, it's Vallejo.
Vallejo, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I can get. I'm an Englishman. I can only get so close before it starts sounding weird. But yeah, congratulations to yourself, not only on qualifying but on the wins there as well. The great result in that final race in particular. Fantastic battle with Tino. How was it from your end?
Yeah, it was quite good because we were like Finland and Spain fighting for the leading championship. So if Tino wins, it will be difficult for us to be in front of Finland at the end. So it was, if Tino wins, Finland probably will be in front of us. I win. So I think Spain, I don't know how are the standings right now, but I think Spain is P1. So yeah, quite happy with the race.
Indeed,
and as well.
Yeah, definitely. It makes a lot of sense to be happy with that one. And if we think about the format today, obviously rather different format to what most drivers are used to. How did you find all the races today, all the different sort of forms of qualification and that sort of thing?
Well, to be honest, it's a little bit random because obviously there are 3 races, different races as well, with different formats. So, but to be honest with you, it can give opportunities to the teams without the best drivers, for example, or the best ability to be on the top, because the standings, for saying like that, is less separated between points. So yeah, I think it's a nice format for a pre-classification. But yeah, I love it, to be honest.
I'm very glad you like it. And is there anything you'd like to say in Spanish, maybe for all the Spanish viewers watching, perhaps?
Well, bueno, a lo que me estáis viendo, nada, ha sido una carrera dura porque, bueno, Tino tenía punta, y luego en China se nos complicó un poco la situación, pero bueno, al final nos hemos clasificado creo que como primeros de grupo, tanto Jolar y yo hemos hecho un buen trabajo, o sea que bueno, muy contento porque al final el objetivo que ha sido clasificarse está cumplido.
All right, thank you very, very much, Ruben, for joining us here, and congratulations. And Badgerman, any further questions from you? Or?
I had one question, but it's already basically answered, because I wanted to ask whether you knew that it would have been enough with the 9th place for Pablo. That would have been enough because Atte Kaupinen did not score any points, and so a 2nd place for you would have been enough, but you've already said that you went for the win because you thought probably you need the win. You actually ultimately didn't. It would have been enough by 1 point, but yeah, that would have been my question, but I think you've basically already answered that you didn't know that you had it safe with a 2nd place.
Yeah, I mean, when you are racing, I mean, I know Pablo was fighting with Atte. I mean, it was like for saying like that, the first driver battling each other and the second driver battling each other, and we were like 2 points between the teams at the end, the final round. So it was like if we were ahead of them, we are almost or 100% in front of them. So yeah, I was concentrated on my race. Don't know actually what happened between Atte and Pablo, but my only focus was to beat Tino, and yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. Congratulations once again on qualifying for the Nations Cup.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and then on to Tino Naukarin, and then who was another driver who shone here today for Team Finland, who finished runners-up on the day. First of all, Tino, how are you feeling?
Sweaty.
Perfect. The most beautiful Finnish answer to start off the interview. Absolutely perfect here for the Nations Cup. So, yeah, obviously, great results from you yourself. Are you happy with your performance over the course of today?
Yes, considering I got told yesterday, at actually this time yesterday, like 11 o'clock for my time, that you're driving tomorrow. I'm like, what? I haven't done any practice. And I was like, this is going to go well. So we discussed this with me and Atte. So we abandoned Brazil completely. Like we didn't practice Brazil at all. That was like our strat. Like if you do good 2 races, we calculated that will be enough. So I was hoping that we will be like mid-table in Brazil. So we will be like very good positions for China. But I was like P2. So I had like no pace because I didn't practice at all for Brazil. And it was interesting. And at least I took some points for there. So, but obviously the China China was, I started like P11, and I think we are going to remove more penalty if that's, I hope it's going to go through, because I got like 5 warnings, it shows in the race register. So I got like 2 warnings, but it shows I got 5 warnings in the game. So I think that will be removed and more points for us. So not sure about that, but yeah, Suzuka was my strongest track, as you could probably notice that. Considering I did like 2 hours practice, so it was enough. But sadly, the Ruben was faster today, and I don't think we could have done better than that with 1 day practice. So
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Adverse conditions for sure. And I mean, your pace was great throughout qualifying as well at Suzuka, always right there at the very top. Badgerman, any further questions from yourself?
Not really. I'm at this point probably just as exhausted as Tino is, just from commentating.
All right, well, thank you very much then, Tino. Is there anything else you'd like to say, or?
Not really.
Nah, it was, yeah.
Is the top 2 or top 1 going through, by the way? That's my question. Because I have no idea. I have no idea.
Top 1 is definitely going through, and it might well be only top 1 going through, but we're not 100% certain on that one just yet.
Well, we don't even know if we're going P1 with my penalty removal, so.
So we'll see about that as well. Yeah, the stewards' inquiries may well have something more to say. But thank you very much, Ruben and Tino and Pablo, who's already gone, for joining us here for the interviews today. And thank you to all the drivers who competed, all manner of drivers competed in the 3 races today. And thank you all very much for watching and sticking with us as well. I have been Aladar, and alongside me in the commentary box has been Badgerman, and it has been our pleasure to bring you the first qualifier for the ORL and Future Esports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. Thank you for watching, and good night.